like that it had team fighting elements. It felt like that the different champions spiked at different points in the game, and it felt like that there was no real time where this comp kind of came online in its unison. And if it wasn't for their top laner having an honestly beast of a performance on Aatrox, finding multiple picks and kills, then this could have been a lot more one-sided in favor of Splice.
Splice, a lot more one-sided. Mistakes in the mid
Yeah.
Yeah.
Name a more iconic duo. No, but seriously though, Splice, you know, they get off to another strong start. I think Xerxes multiple times throughout the World Championship has got several kills in a row in the early game and building up these leads for Splice. But we were discussing and debating what happened next multiple times. We got a couple of replays that I would like my analysts to talk me through and sort of break them down one by one.
Yeah, I think this is really the big thing that kind of starts off what I will call the disconnect for Splice. My time as a coach talking about disconnecting and reconnecting. Unfortunately, in League of Legends, mistakes snowball, right? So you stick around too long in the mid lane, immediately after dying to a Flash Skarner ulti, Cassio goes back and buys a QSS, and then you get into this sort of reactive phase. You mentioned Xerxes in the early game has been proactive. It's because the way they're playing the game is like, okay, what do we want to do? Set up on a side lane. Who comes with me? Bring the support over. Get vision here and here. Set up a play. That is very planned. And now this is immediately after dying in the mid lane. You see in the side lane, like Vizichachi's like, oh, bummer, like I need some help. TPs are coming through to save you. And then it's a reactive play on the top side. And exactly the same can be said for this one here.
And you'll notice in a lot of these setups, again, the disconnect. There are two people in the bot lane forcing an all-in when the rest of Splice is not in a position to answer. These teleports came in much later than they normally would because, again, the rest of Splice were ready. Now, ultimately, they turn this heavily in their favor, which is great for Splice. But the reason why they lost game one was because a lot of the plays that they tried to make did not have proper setup and they got punished for it. And we're continuing to see these plays happen again in game two.
And that's the thing, right? Whether you judge a play on like bad, good, great, the fact is like reliable and unreliable are the things that win you games in best of 5. And this was their first win, but those plays are unreliable because they're being incredibly reactive in the mid lane.
Now, let's also give a little bit of praise here because both sides, despite being very critical, saying some of the elements of the Unicorns draft and then some of the decision-making, we're seeing some very exciting plays. We are seeing some scrappy team fights, let's not kid ourselves, but neither team is willing to just fall over and concede the game. Boss in particular, in this Aatrox performance this game, Unicorns in the previous game, fantastic team fights. What sealed the deal this time around, though, was a Splice Baron that was set up because Unicorns were looking for a pick and it didn't work out.
Yeah, 100%. This is the best example of Ananasik being the jungler that he is. Chachi doesn't even know he's there.
So this replay significantly earlier.
Yeah.
There's a blue buff invade that then gets turned around.
But it is the jungler kind of just solo invading and then getting punished at the back end.
So this was one of the things where while we throw criticism towards Splice in their ability to be a little more reliant on reacting to a lot of the plays, here we actually get to see them being the reactionary team where it's working out in their favor. And as we set up the Baron, I think it's important to recognize that while they are a lot more reactionary than I feel like we've often seen from them in the regular season, they're still talented players that are more than ready to make these plays happen and actually convert these teamfight wins into big objectives. We saw it in the bot lane play where they converted into 2 towers, and here UOL are just trying to get something back on the map. But this time, UOL are the ones not in position, and it's Splice who are able to punish and convert into a big win.
And that's the thing, right? With TPs, the nuances are there. If you are reactive, you're not setting up a play on your own volition, you have to be swift, and that was exactly it. The package goes forward, the Skarner looks for the pick, TP comes immediately, and they clean up massive.
Now, we are nearly at the end of the segment, and we only have, so we have some information that Splice have selected blue side going into game 3. Blue side has been very heavily sort of favored and victorious. Ejim, closing thoughts on Splice picking blue and expectations coming into the game.
I was just kind of laughing, like, fancy that. What? There's been one red side victory the whole day. We get to game number 3.
One yesterday, one today.
Yeah.
What is it about the draft on blue side that's helping it be victorious?
Well, I mean, having priority pick, and I think that you're forced to ban away Pantheon on red side as well, which means that you don't have as much control over the direction of the draft, and having first pick gives you a lot more creative control as well.
All right, very closing thoughts.
Yes, I want to say that we don't have much time, but it's because people's counter picks aren't being useful. Like, straight up. The
That
counter
was
picks just aren't
awesome.
working.
I expected it to be longer, but you nailed it. Good job, team. We're stepping away when we return. It's game 3 of Unicorns of Love versus Splice. Do not miss it, because I said so.
Cersei now fishing for the kill. Unstoppable. The package will not take him to safety. The poison knocking him down. Unicorns of Love can't catch a break. Edward's next on the list, just trying to buy time. Northscare trying to fish for Nomads. Nomads can't go anywhere. The lockdown is there. Edward now running for the hills, and Onasek needs to make it out safety. He's just going to try to fight. Now going to get pulled back, grounded. Will just get picked off in the end. Humanoid has Alta. Arrow's going to connect. Oh! Ford Humanoid, it's clean. The R flash, he's going to connect it. They're going to wipe the floor with him. Trying to turn. Boss does so much damage. Northscare might die to the Baron. Arrow connects on the Vizichachi. They need to chain all the CC flawlessly. If the Kenny gets all in the middle of the fight, they manage to take him down. But now Humanoid can watch it. Watch the Casio. Can't you get the damage done? Boss is now taking out Northscare. This is going to be the difference maker. He's trying to plow through the entire team, but it is not enough. Boss says no. He drops the Darkened Blade right on his face. Bakami is unrelenting, and Vizichachi is here. Knocked up, but will not be taken down. Can't save his name for Edward as Splice strike back in this best of 5 and even up the score.
Welcome to Assist of the Week, presented by State Farm. Splice was taking on the best of Japan, Detonation Focus Me, when it looked like DFM had finally gotten the upper hand after winning a fight. But it tends to be a problem when your team groups up for a cannon that can flash ultimate right on top of you. Vizichachi dramatically turned a dire-looking fight for Splice, who would move on to win the game.
The new Oppo Reno 2 quad camera. Zoom into imagination.
Welcome back to the LEC studio. You thought you were going to get another 90 seconds of casters talking about nonsense, but you're wrong. It's Splice and Unicorns in Love. It's game 3. We're already into picks and bans. Hate to keep you waiting there at home, and it is the Kale, it is the Heimerdinger, it is the Pantheon, the GP, and now the Syndra as well. I'm still Dracos, this is Ender. Take it away, my friend.
Yep, Splice chose blue here, and they're running it back, but this is the ban I was looking for. It's going to be a Xayah first pick, almost surely for the side of Splice. UOL on the red side last time around, banned the Pantheon, the GP, and the Xayah, but the Kiana was left open, and I don't think that's something you can allow to happen. And I'm especially happy to see that UOL have the strategy prepared to counter out Xayah and Rakan. Caitlyn Morgana, super powerful laning duo that can play to push, can play to knock down enemy plates, and deny really any engage attempts of the Rakan.
And of course, have to see, because we know how terrifying Xayah Rakan can be. See what the options are. The Karma locked in. Could be the blind pickable top laner for the likes of Vizichachi.
I think it might actually be support Karma here. Karma into the Morgana. Otherwise, surely, if you're playing the Rakan in bottom lane, you're surely going to pick that up in these two picks here. And I think Karma into Morgana has a pretty good laning phase. You can break through the Black Shield so easily. This is sort of a classic counter pick back in the day by having a mage-like support that doesn't have immediate CC. Morgana's Black Shield becomes effectively useless because you can burst that through that relatively quickly. And of course, the Mantra E on that Karma 2 is going to be a powerful team fighting tool for the side of Splice to try to allow Vizichachi's Gnar into these fights.
And I think we've played against so many Karma bots.
Ooh.
We see the Camille locked in for boss, a comfort pick for him, up against the Gnar of Vizichachi. But Karma is just a monster in lane. Mantra Q at level 1 is just so much damage. It feels like there's no way to dodge it. It's such a large hitbox, and you have to wonder if Edward is prepared for this kind of counter pick, if it even goes to the bot lane. Because at this point, the only thing that they probably know for sure is they're forcing a Rakan ban out from the side of UOL.
Regardless, Unicorns were expecting to play against Rakan, and I don't think that is what is going to happen today. Now, Camille into Gnar, pretty strong matchup for Camille. Can try to trade back with W in lane, even though you typically expect the ranged matchup to be able to have the push lead and push you into the tower. You eventually just outscale in a side lane. You pick up that Trinity Force, you're going to take some really nasty trades up against this Gnar. And of course, once you finish Tiamat, Gnar can't really threaten knocking at your tower and taking away plates anymore.
See what both teams want to do when they get into the early game. Junglers have not been picked up yet. Have been very often the priority for both these squads up until this game 3. See if Splice want to limit the pool at all. Do they want to take that Skarner away? Not quite as scary as it was in the previous game. There's no Thresh to pair with it. It looks like it will be the Rek'Sai in the end. One of Anonymous' more comfortable picks thus far in the tournament.
So they tried to remove the Rek'Sai as a very strong early game jungler because one thing that a lot of European teams like to do specifically against the Caitlyn Morgana is try to split the map against them, because if you have the stronger jungle matchup and you're able to invade the enemy bot side of the map and force the enemy jungler up top side, it basically makes it so Caitlyn and Morgana don't get to play the laning phase. That's why I like a Nanasik trying to go for the stronger early game champion in the Elise, can duel a lot of other junglers, as well as set up for ganks against Vizichachi in the top lane. With the Camille, Elise can go for these plays and try to shut him down early.
And now I'm curious to see how exactly Xerxes wants to respond. Hecarim has been an interesting pick. He's pulled it out twice thus far in the tournament. Could look to play it here. But instead,
yes,
Olaf coming through, one of the most oppressive early game jungler in the game, next to a I don't know, aimbotting Nidalee at this point.
I think we need to expect level 1 maneuvers from Splice here, because you have Gnar, you have Olaf for that ranged, slow chase down, even a Mantra Q from Karma. Very strong level 1 abilities to try and potentially split that map. If you know you want Vizichachi to play safe in lane and allow that Camille to push him in so he can't be ganked by this Elise, I think that's the aim you have to go for in these first few levels.
And of course, the Akali set up with the TF bans, putting away that as an option in the lane. What is the option here for No Man's in mid lane? Could be the Ryze. Looks like it will be in the end. So No Man's going to try his hand at this matchup. Ryze, a champion that fell out of popularity for a long time, but has seen a bit of play thus far in the play-ins.
And for No Man's, this guy almost always loves to go for these late game scaling options. Ryze with some buffs has helped his wave clear earlier on in a lot of his matchups, but definitely will scale up into a pretty big monster. of just DPS machine later on in the game. Unicorns will have very strong 1-3-1 setup already with the push that Caitlyn can generate, as well as the tower threat you have, and 1v1 potential of a Camille and a Ryze. But Splice's comp has tools of their own to chase you down and really try to get onto that backline with both an Olaf and an Akali. I think it's going to come down to skirmishing on the side of Splice, playing around some strong lanes and counter matchups in the early game, and then try to force fights before Boss and Nomanz can make too much go wrong in side lanes against you.
Once again, it feels like a story all about the early game. Last time it was about the early game for Splice. They could not close out. Unicorns of Love turned that game around and took game 1. Game 2, story of struggles in draft, it felt like, for the Unicorns of Love. This time, feels like fire meeting fire, as both the Olaf and Elise will be looking to be the difference makers for their team in the early game. And now, just curious to see how this unfolds, Ender, because I think the Olaf, the Karma support without the extra gold, I can see the path for Splice to win the game, but they faltered once on this one in game 1 already. A lot of pressure on them now in game 3 to pull ahead in the series.
We talk a lot about late game insurance when it comes to Splice. In this game, they do not have it. Eyes on Splice early on in this match. What can they get going at level 1? And for the Unicorns of Love, Nomanz, can he step up again and lead his team to a win?
And the fans of both teams saying it better than I ever could. It's a divided audience in-house today. Some are just innocent bystanders in the rivalry of Splice versus UOL. You see them in the front there. They're in the back. Splice fans coming in clutch, looking to pull ahead 2-1 in the series. Not there yet. And Ender. Now the Unicorns fans are back. Early game, once again, where we have to keep our eyes. Elise versus Olaf. Olaf, the great destroyer of early jungle matchups. Yep. What do you do in this case if you're Anonasek?
Well, I think Anonasek, it's about knowing where Xerxes is on the map. And I'm honestly a little surprised not to see Splice going for any kind of early move already. Still possible for Xerxes to pick up one buff and then run into the enemy jungle, because the matchup does become a little bit interesting, right? Because right now, Nanasek's just sitting between two towers, not deciding yet where he wants to go in case they spot a late invade coming through from Splice. So I already like this level 1 strategy coming through from him. He's going to wait until the last possible second, then probably go up towards his red buff. And they also place a ward on their own blue to spot out this invade. This is what we were expecting, Dracos. But I think Unicorns of Love came in with a solid early game plan to spot it out.
Good early ward, but of course this is what you come to know expect from Splice as well, in that they are very diligent about setting Xerxes up for success, and you can see it paying off. He has been a monster thus far in the early game of this series.
Okay, so right now, Unicorns, they did spot Xerxes on, or rather, Splice know that there was a ward on the blue buff, so we'll see how that affects his early game pathing here. You can see, though, every single game, Xerxes has just been incredibly, incredibly dominant. As far as this early game pathing is concerned, I do like the move from Ananasek. And this is going to be the split map we talked about, right? You know, we said Xerxes wants to be able to silo off Inax and Edward. He is still seen, though, so these guys are like, we can't lane. I guess we can come and try to make your life miserable, but unable to steal it. Still might be able to find the collapse here if Nomanz were to roam over, but with mid lane priority too, Xerxes should easily be able to escape.
This is a very odd level 1 from the bot lane. That is a huge commitment of time.
But what can you do, right? Because if you walk into that bottom lane, you know you're going to get ganked. So you have to wait for Splice to try and push this lane back against you. This is a level 1 plan, and this is why Caitlyn Morgana never caught on in Europe. This has been a duo that we've seen in other regions as a really strong counter into Zion Rakan, but it relies so heavily on being able to push the lane early on and then trying to attack the tower. But Splice came in, they said, okay, well, we're just going to lock in the Karma to make your Morgana really kind of useless, especially in this lane. Karma doing much more poke damage, making the Black Shield not going to be super effective. And then we split map on you at level 1, and now you don't get to play the game.
And also, it's just pretty impossible to dodge that Q.
No, you can't.
Very big skill shot. Now you can see Xerxes happy to have this additional pressure, can move in, can look to contest the Scuttle Crab. I think take this one for free, as you mentioned, divided map. But until Morgana gets level 6, not really going to be able to match the output of a Karma, and we might just see a dive here.
It's a level 1 Edward right now. Splice going to be looking for the dive. They have a lot of damage.
All he has is pool. He levels up there, though. Maybe this can be it. Edward flashing backwards. Still looks like he's going to go down. That's first blood locked up, though. And next, they're trying to fish for a kill. Kabe might just get taken out. It's good juggling of tower aggro. Kabe will not give his life, and that's 2 for 1 in favor of Splice.
Really nicely done. Now Ananasek trying to make a response play up topside, but they don't have the hookshot, and the minions will block the cocoon.
Anonasek gonna step forward, the flash out. They're gonna go. They can trade tower aggro. Anonasek has to go up. That means Boss does not want to take this tower aggro. He has to flash into safety. Vizichachi chasing him down. He's gonna get it. It's disaster for Unicorns.
Boss thought he could survive there, but the problem was, I believe his corrupting potion kept him in combat and dealing damage to Vizichachi. Vizichachi.
Coon, does he have enough damage? Vizichachi, of course, with fleet footwork, can't try to zoom away here. Anonasek gets nothing. Trades flash for flash. Not even, he just gives up flash on that one.
That was a really smart move, though, from
Anonasek.
Vizichachi. Oh, wait. He's going to be okay, right? Okay. He'll get out there. But Vizichachi, you might wonder why he actually left the tower. It's because Boss had TP. So in the event that Vizichachi stays under tower, Boss TP's in, and the dive will work that second time around. So he ends up baiting the flash out of Anonasek. But what I was getting at earlier is Boss was still dealing damage, and the turret registered him as dealing damage because of the corrupting potion. So Anonasek just sort of left his top laner out to dry right there, and the dive goes horribly wrong while Xerxes comes bot lane one more time, the lane in a terrible position for UOL.
Luckily, Edward hits level 3. We'll have access to all abilities, Black Shield included. Just going to be forced to back away. We check in on the CS, though. You can see, despite the dive happening topside, Camille actually giving up a lot of CS for that play. In the mid lane, Rides, despite having push a few moments ago when we checked in there, is now getting pushed in and is falling behind.
It's been the story of the game, you know, or the series, really, with Humanoid winning all these mid lane matchups early on. Granted, in good matchups a lot of the time, but on this Akali in particular, he just looks so at home. One of his most played throughout the summer split, and able to play super aggressively in lane thanks to that Shroud. Now Anonasek, he's bot lane to try and help reset this wave and reset it back to neutral here. Just give the pressure that Inax needs to try and bounce this one, but I don't think that they're going to give much room here as Norskeren walks forward and gets a big chunk down, just styling on Anonasek as he walks into the gank, can't make it happen, and now Xerxes is in this bottom lane too.
Thanks for taking the play-by-play. And that's it, Ender. Has to walk away, 28 CS to 40. Kabe with 2 assists as well.
And he can just walk into the enemy jungle now, too, right? This is what we call smart invading, smart counter-jungling from Xerxes. When he has priority in the lanes around him, he's walking on in here, and he's trying to bully. Make sure, hey, I'm going to take your Gromp camp. He took this one earlier, so it's going to give him a sizable amount of experience. Bot lane is going to continue to get worse and worse and worse for the Unicorns. I mean, this is just a shellacking.
You also just don't outscale. And if you've played Caitlyn, you know, hey, before first back, it's a lot of poke, but when your first back is boots 2, things have gone horribly wrong. You can see the difference in gold. Did not have enough money to pick up a BF sword. Yes, the extra movement speed will be very nice to have, but Caitlyn pokes a lot in lane, and without a BF sword, you're just not going to do much damage here. Boss now potentially the one in trouble.
Oh, get back here!
Into the wall. Vizichachi looking clean on the play, tanks the tower, walks away, and Game 1 was so UOL recovered in the late game, but now I just don't even think Splice is giving them the chance.
Well, Splice are just winning everywhere on the map right now. While Anonasek is farming, his lanes are dying everywhere. This is the read I had on Splice, too. Coming into the series, Splice were the favorites. Game 1, you know, shook a lot of people's confidence, but they continue to dominate every single early game. And it does definitely seem they will continue that trend. They're saying knowing the respawn timer of the enemy blue buff, this is exactly how you need to play Olaf as well, especially in pro play. The champion falls off a cliff in the later stages of the game, so you need to play for enemy camp respawns. You know those when you do take those away. Use your priority lanes to continue to extend this lead more and more and more. And I don't think the control wards inside a river from Splice are ever going to go away. They have the pressure all around this bottom side of the map. It's just going to continue to get worse and worse.
But you talked about some of the breakpoints. Maybe once Boss gets a Tiamat, this game can start to turn. No Man's is doing okay in terms of these mid lane trades, at least waiting in the darkness. Will not find an opportunity to land the Cocoon. But 3K gold lead, 7 minutes into the game, is pretty much the definition of dominance. You could go bigger, but I don't think you go much smaller than that. Good news is Nomads and Anonasek can team up. They can look to make a play on top side. They have the Rise ult available. They could walk face first to Xerxes. Xerxes just hitting level 6 is going to be huge. Will get spotted out. Boss now on the retreat. Vizichachi just going to knock 2 into the wall. He's going to take 1. He's going to look for a second. Boss now running for his life. Vizichachi gets 1. No Man should be able to get 1 back. But no, Triumph keeping him alive for now. Anonasek, they're trying to escape. Desperate to get out of this one. No CC left. Means UOL will get out with 2, but that could have been a disaster.
It's a crucial kill there for the Unicorns, even though Chachi finds the solo in the 1v3. So now Edward makes his way to the top lane as well. Strange lane assignment coming through from him. He's just going to channel the reset. Maybe if that fight were to extend a little bit further forward here. You know, Unicorns Love, they had the right idea. They think, okay, we can make a play in the top side at the same time other members are resetting, but every single time they go for something, Splyce and Xerxes, they're ready to react. Well, ultimately, they are able to Realm Warp out of here. Without that spell, this goes much, much worse for them, as the level lead was definitely in favor of Splyce.
And now that Olaf's level 6, I don't think he's ever losing a trade to Elise ever again. Just ult through that Cocoon with Challenging Smite. Remember, it's Chilling Smite on the opposite side, so 1v1's just already horrendously in favor of the Olaf, even more Olaf favored with the Smite difference. And Vizicsacsi is no longer scared of this top lane matchup. Camille's stepped away from the TMF build path briefly just to buy a bit of health.
It's interesting how aggressively Ananasik is playing around this mid lane, really trying to get things done. He knows bottom lane is pushing very heavily. Xerxes
has read literally every play this game.
It's unreal.
Candace ult, not going to do it yet. No damage items yet from Rise. Mana, of course, will provide him with a bit there, but has not finished the Roa. Has not finished the Archangels.
This is why so many people praise Xerxes, though. While not every game is a montage of him getting kills early on, you see how he just absolutely reads Unicorns like a book. And we talked about this earlier. He's so vocal on this team. He's always calling for wards for, you know, laners to come and collapse and help make punishment happen on towards Ananasik. And that's something we saw throughout the first 2 games, was Ananasik getting punished through very smart response plays by Xerxes. This game, though, it's all about Xerxes playing on the offensive and getting in enemy territory.
Locked down there onto Norscarin. He's forced to flash away. Edward, though, now in trouble. Kabe ults in the exchange, pulls it back, though. They still have way priority here. The Elise is going to have to back off because the Olaf is coming in. Looks like they might be able to grab another plate on that one. And Vizicsacsi going in for the 1v1, turning mini at the optimum time just to make sure Boss can never get access to that wave.
Chachi did just get access to TP. Humanoids is going to be up soon as well, which will give them a lead on the top side of the map specifically. So they can continue to make plays on this bottom side as Vizicsacsi wins solo that top lane, now up to about 46. That's almost double the CS of Boss at the moment, even after some early moves from Ananasik up towards that top lane. While Boss will cash in on a lot of that, you can just see the state of the map is in disrepair for Unicorns. Every single lane is winning as now Humanoid teleports himself into the top lane as they continue to deny Boss.
1,500 individual gold deficit for Boss. 2 levels, almost 3, as Vizicsacsi just continues to get more and more resources. Proxying the wave, moving in, breaking down more tower plates. This is absolute destruction.
It's how you display dominance, right, Dracos? And for a team like Splyce, they've been waiting so long for recognition, I felt. Because for a long, long time, they've been a middle-of-pack team. This year, they said, okay, we built this team around Kabe and Xerxes. We can make something happen. And they waited, you know? In the spring split, it was the top 3 teams very clearly, and Splyce finished 4th. In the summer, it was top 2 with them in 3rd. Now they make a play themselves.
Humanoid running in. Has the ultimate available. Second stack going to do so much damage. Edward running for his life, but that Olaf is unstoppable. Humanoid will give nothing back in exchange as the binding goes wide. Unicorns of Love simply cannot catch a break.
It's just that, whoa, Boss going
Wall
deep.
Dive extends the range. They're desperate to kill Norscarin. They finally get something, but Humanoid might step forward for more. In the end, he's going to walk away from that one. Does not want to take the risk. Can't afford to give over that shutdown.
Take everything you can get right here. They got to make sure they can pick up the minions on the opposite side of the map. You know, in theory, Unicorns have some scaling options with Rise and the Camille and side lanes, but ultimately in the team fight's never going to be an easy task for them up against the composition that Splyce has put together. And as we were saying, Splyce, always a team coming into games and having to prove themselves. So many times, people do not believe in this squad, but you can't help believe in a player like Humanoid in a game like this, just running straight on into enemy territory.
And looking for redemption after game 1 and finding it. Admittedly, this play, Edward with a good stopwatch to make it out, but this is really the only sign of life we've seen from Unicorns of Love so far this game. Every other play has gone against them, but at least they're able to take out Norscarin. Of course, always the scaling factor with a Rise on their side. But at 12 minutes, when the gold lead is this large, it does feel actually pretty done and dusted for Splyce. Of course, they do have to close
TP behind
very hard, and now it's Vizicsacsi level 10, running for his life, building up Rage. I don't think they want to take this fight. No Man's could be enough to get this one going, but if he turns Mega before they kill him, it will fall against him. Does not connect on the Boomerang there. He is just going to get burned through. 4 members is enough to kill Vizicsacsi. He will get knocked down, but in the meantime, Humanoid grabbing the remaining plates on that tower. 1 goes down, should look to get 3 before they fall.
Now look at ball lane, Inax caught out, no support around him, he's in trouble.
Locked down, tries to get away, tries to get something back. Kabe, though, merciless. They're going to take him out. They're going to grab another tower play for themselves. Herald now used mid. I didn't even see that one taken. Splice going to try to break the mid lane tower. Boss getting a few plates back. It's not going to make up for the massive CS discrepancy as Splice will break down bot lane tower, and even more gold goes into the back pocket of Kabe.
I mean, just take a look at the minimap right now. Look at how deep those control wards are from Splice. You got one on the enemy blue buff. You got one on the inner top lane tower. You're going to be able to track Unicorn so well in a game like this. Top lane, though, is going to be the point that Unicorns continue to try to attack. Because you can't attack bot lane, you can't attack mid lane, you can't attack jungle. They all are way too safe of champions. So you must continue to look towards the top side of the map, continue to force. Because Splice are just taking every other objective. The kills are all you can have.
They're trying desperately to set up here on Vizicachi, a little bit more rage.
14 plates to 2, Dracos.
Again, Meganar, something that they have to respect. Trying to outmaneuver this one, needs to dodge a cocoon. They knock him into the wall. He flashes away, needs to get more rage. Trying to transform, does not get the chance. Enough burst from the side of Unicorns of Love to make sure that he gets taken down. They'll grab the tower as well, but meanwhile in the mid lane, Splice are already in position to get advantages back in their favor.
Inax taking the long way around. They're going to lose this tower, most definitely. The Unicorns continue to find these picks. That's what they have to do, and it's actually a large reason why I felt like they were able to make some headway back in game number 1. Now, we saw Splice change their tune in game 2 and stop actually playing the entire map. Just group up as a team. If you're stronger than your opponents and you are concerned about potentially getting exploited on opposite sides, stop going 1-3-1. Just go for a 1-4 or just a 5 right down a lane, walk into the enemy jungle, and continue to press your vision deeper and deeper. And then there's a lot less room for error. It's harder to blow the game wide open, but certainly less room for your opponents to come back.
I mean, when you've got a lead like this, you can 1-3-1, you can group a team fight, you can pretty much do anything. Except for leave your Gnar alone versus 4 people.
But even then, they're getting objectives, Draco, so it's still
true.
worth.
And I think the thing is, naturally, the person I want to keep my eyes on the opposite side for Unicorns to Love is Nomanz. Always scaling picks, has a rise, can still be a late game, massive late game threat for the team. Needs to get there, but Roa, you've got the tier as well, scaling up, stacking up, looking towards that Archangels. Probably cannot afford to take a full-on 5v5, but as the Olaf starts to fall off as we get towards the 2-3 item mark, the rise is certainly going to take off.
And it's about keeping him alive on the backline when the inevitable dive of Olaf, Gnar, and Akali reach for Nomanz and Inax. Boss also trying to jump away himself right there. And I do like this move. Binding does land. That's a good look.
Fishing on Humanoid. They have locked him down. No matter how many dashes away he has, he's still spotted out by the Ignite. Forced to burn everything there in the retreat except for the major cooldown in Flash.
Fun interaction there, of course, between Morgana and the Shroud from Akali. Will reveal after a few patches ago that was changed. So Edward was able to see Humanoid even inside of a Shroud, but it wasn't enough to keep up with all the mobility that the Akali does have. Still has Flash, by the way, so it was going to be fine regardless. Nanosec, probably not.
Running, goes up in the air. There's nowhere for him to come down, and that means that he will... Wow, absolutely sniped. Ooh, good buffer there from Boss. Of course, if the tethers are in the air on that hook shot, even if you get CC'd and they hit the wall, they will still pull you in.
Yep, got to attack them after it hits the wall, and then you can force them out of it. Now, Boss going deep.
Chachi, Minignar's about to come out. He's going to be a lot squishier. He's locked up. Nomanz is coming in here as well, but Kabe is just murdering absolutely everyone. They walked right into Splice. They thought they had the advantage, but Kabe now running in for more. Kabe is absolutely fearless. He wants to close this one out. He knows things went wrong in game 1, but he's turning it around here in game 3. A rampage for Splice's main man.
Kabe looks like he took something they said personally right there, going right over the wall, finding all those kills while Humanoid continues the push down bottom. And Nanosec, you just don't have the damage.
This doesn't go up.
Come down. Yeah.
Here comes the axe.
Come right back.
They're going to let him live.
This time. But you tell your friends, don't do it again.
Wait. I don't think you win this. The Olaf is very strong. They're going to try to burst down Norskeren. The snare, not going to land.
He should
Norskeren
be
now
out.
running hookshot wall dive. They will be able to grab Norskeren. Good pickoff from Unicorns of Love. Very brave. Did not have perfect information on the enemy team. Could have gone wrong for them.
I actually think you need to take those chances, though. Even though, like, that could just end the game. I mean, Baron's not up, so a couple deaths there probably not going to cost it. We'll watch this play one more time, because I do think
looks so good at first.
It does look good, but then Kabe's over the wall. He's like, you can't hit me, I can hit you instead. Nomanz has absolutely nowhere to go, and then he really chases him down. This is where he gets angry. Even using the flash, not quite able to connect it, but it doesn't matter. He's got the items.
You won't like him when he's angry, Ender. Scary, scary man, that Kabe. 2 items now. Inax just got his IE. Not ideal.
Right.
Maybe can start to poke out, and Well-placed Caitlyn ult will take a little Vizichachi.
He's going to need a lot more than an IE before he starts doing damage.
That's true. People talk about the Caitlyn power trough, but usually you're so far ahead in lane it balances out. And in this case, there's no balancing.
Dragos, this whole game has been a Caitlyn power trough. Splice made sure of that.
It's very true.
From level 1, map split against them. Their dove, while Morgana is still level 1 underneath the tower, lose 2 members, teleport back, can't pick up all the minions. It was just a very well early game executed plan from Splice, and we expected it in the draft, and I can't help feel but cheated a little bit from Unicorns, who tried to avoid the Olaf instead of perhaps fighting, but obviously going to be a difficult tax against that level 1 from Splice.
Just stepping forward, just poking, goes invisible, knows Edward has to commit the ult if he wants to see him. Just taking a lot out of those health bars, and they're just walking down mid lane. It is 19 minutes, and they are looking to break open an inhibitor tower. No Baron needed. Good news is they can clear the wave. Boss threatening with the hook shot, but will not wall dive in. It's a 10k lead. Yeah, at 19 minutes.
That's a big one. And now all you have to do, probably wait for the Baron buff. You have a Mountain Drake. You have full control over the jungle. Pick that up. And then the easiest play when you're playing against a Caitlyn is just avoid the traps. Walk down mid. She plays self 5. You go top lane. She's like, okay, well, now I'm not so useful as a champion. Wasn't going to be too useful anyways, though.
Ender, normally we talk about Splice mid-game, we talk about kind of hiccups, but I don't want to put this particular mid-game on their shoulders.
Look,
because the game is naturally going to slow down until they get a Baron, because they're just so hilariously far ahead that the only way for them to move the game forward, other than taking a Baron, is diving inhib towers, and they're not that. I mean, they probably are that far ahead, but that's a huge risk.
Dragos, we're already in late game for Splice. That's how far ahead they are. They've got 40k gold at 20 minutes. That is a lot. Of course, that's just naturally going to mask any potential weakness here. Of course, we want to see Splice now set up for the Baron themselves. They have Humanoid in bottom lane to exert a little bit of pressure. No one can really fight against him.
That's a 4k difference.
Yeah, you noticed that too?
Carries.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, all right.
What about those supports, though? 2k for Norscarin.
Making that money, boy.
Making it rain.
All right, Norscarin. I feel like it's still difficult for them to start this Baron up. It's very easy. They have a single mountain. Maybe they can just shred through it, but they don't want to take the risk.
They've been burned at Baron before, Dracos.
Oh, fantastic binding, though. Will force Chachi into Mega Gnar. Would have liked to just sit on the edge of that Rage Bar to make sure the follow-up fight, he could have it on demand.
I like this move from Splice. Fully push up mid lane. Because all these towers are down, you can then go and deny all the vision inside of the enemy jungle.
Oh, flash forward, and Anasik in trouble. Jungler now dead. Boss stepping forward. Still just fall right back down. Anasik drops. That should be access to the Baron for Splice if they want it, but they may look to break mid instead.
Splice don't let him out this time. This time they're going to knock him down. Tower already very low. They don't have a minion wave, though. I actually think they should just run back towards the Baron or look for a solo kill. Why not?
Trying to style. Dangerously close to having that fall. Very flat. Flash in. No man's absolutely outplayed in that exchange there. Has the Seraph shield, has the black shield. The shutdown now comes in. Vizichachi now in trouble. Splice have overstayed their welcome. The Gnar is not going to go mega, but he will go straight to the grave. And No Man's is still alive. He's healing, he's ticking, he's burning. He refuses to die. And now it's Kabe versus the world. And luckily for Splice, when all else fails, Kabe is the rock for this team, and he will not give up his life in the play.
Unicorns of Love get 3 kills right there, but for what? Splice just picked a Nanasik. What are they doing flashing under inhibitor towers trying to find flashy solo kills when a Baron is right there? They killed the enemy jungler. How do you not just take that? Instead, going for the kills here on towards No Man's. Humanoid tracks him underneath the tower, so can't go for the kill. And then watch this from Xerxes. He misses the Q and then goes in anyways.
Yeah. I don't know if Saris ticked over right in that instant. I don't know if he forgot to check the items. That was not the play that they wanted. Humanoid now on the run on the top side of the map. The remaining members of Splice nowhere nearby to provide support. But it won't be necessary. Sadly for Splice, they have burned their TP. Good news for Splice, they're still 10k in the lead. They're still very much in control of this game. And they can, sadly for Unicorns of Love, afford to make big mistakes like that. It does not cost them anything. So they now move into the Baron pit. 5k and dropping. This one most certainly will drop down. Edward now just going to get picked off and killed. He tries to flash out to safety. Boss now trying to finish that kill off. Baron has dropped for Splice in the meantime as Boss fishes for the 1v1. And Caitlyn's going to get the shutdown onto Akali. Still the Baron for Splice. Still a 10k gold lead, but a lot of small mistakes.
Splice should, by all accounts, win this game. But Inax has now gotten just 2 shutdowns. He's now just 1 level behind Kabe as opposed to the 2.5 that he was earlier. And he's making money. You know, we said it was 4k difference earlier in the game. Now it's less than 3K Dracos. And, you know, as we go further and further into the game and he continues to catch up and pick up a lot of minions and experience, we do have to look out for that. Now, there's another time Edward looks like he gets caught with the TP coming through. Humanoid will end up dropping there.
Mid lane, Kabi locked up, shut down.
I actually can't believe it.
I can't believe I'm at a... Unicorns of Love are suddenly very much looking to shrink this gold lead. They're now moving into the mid lane. Kabi is dead. The consistent damage, the consistent wave clear is gone for the side of Splyce. Maybe they fish for a fight here. Maybe they try to get something back, but I think they just give up this tower instead. The gold lead will finally start to shrink. As UOL break down the mid-tier 1. Really, really bad back from Boss, though. May cost his life. The hookshot wall dive is getting run down. Now the tree comes back. High risk there from Boss. Luckily, the team responds. Will pull away as well. High risk from Nomans. Everyone just taking very risky backs right now.
Everyone needs to chill out. But, okay, take a moment to look at this. 3 items completed for Nomans, the late game carry insurance we were talking about for the Unicorns of Love. Minus 1,200 gold Baron power play. They were up 10K. The base is still exposed here after that mid lane tower did fall, but...
We still have a minute 40 left on the Baron. Xerxes and Norscaron both still have it up and available. One of them should go top lane to help those minions, probably.
So you see these traps in the mid lane, this is what I was sort of talking about. You can push up mid lane. Now all these traps are put on cooldown from Inax, can then try to transition that top. Unfortunately, they're a little late on that play, so they can't actually siege this tower. And now stepping forward through this corridor is a little bit difficult.
Inax wants to get in range, hit some of those guaranteed headshots off the trap proc. Boss, though, finally with the TMAC can start to clear out this wave. Vizichachi not quite as strong as he once was in the early laning phase. The rest of the team now coming in. Anonasek just doing what he can, mostly just a cocoon bot at this stage. Vizichachi on the way to Mega. Maybe that could be the fight kickoff, and you can see Humanoid still looking for an opportunity to go in there on the back of the Shuriken flip.
Yeah, I don't think Splyce can actually use this to siege forward here. I'm waiting, but they're splitting up all 3 lanes at the moment, not committing to just one to try and walk it in and get those last autos down on a tower. Now bottom lane with the range on Gnar, they should be able to knock this one through, as there's no minions in mid lane though.
Inax stepping forward to try to poke Kabe, it looks like. Tower should fall. Can they stay for the inhibitor as well? Binding now used by Edward. Xerxes running into the mid lane, trying to get something. No man's there. He could look for the 1v1. The rest of Splyce going to settle for just a bot lane inhibitor. Baron 6 seconds left. Maybe they can stick around. They have a massive lead. There is no tower there, yet Splyce are not willing to take the risk.
Splyce have righted the course now with that inhibitor. Mid lane still exposed, so can continue to look for that, as for the next few minutes, those super minions are going to be funneling down in towards that bottom lane. Still need to do something about these traps, though, because it is really hard when you bunch up in those tight corridors to actually walk forward and siege the tower.
It's an update. That was the 3rd worst Baron power play at Worlds so far. Not ideal for the team. The traps, though, fading away. Inax will throw down a few more, holding on to the mid lane for now.
And now because Nomans has finished off that Void Staff, he can cut through Vizichachi a whole lot more easily, who itemized heavy for that MR. Not going to be effective really at all against a Camille in a side lane, so he more than likely wants to match up against Ryze, but I think that is a losing matchup. So as we mentioned earlier in draft, the side lanes are going to become less and less favorable for Splyce as the game does drag on, but now that they do have that added pressure of super minions down bottom lane, they can use that to effectively waste the time of a boss or of a Nomans as they try to set up for any future sieges. But this might just be a situation where they wait for that next Baron buff to spawn, and of course super minions will still be spawning down in bottom lane when that does come up.
And their 3rd Cloud kill will reveal an Infernal for the next Drake, which will help them as they move later, match out some of the scaling the Ryze brings to the table. 3.5 items for Nomans. Happy to have gotten this far in the game, I have to imagine. Splyce looked very much on the cusp of closing it out pre-25 minutes. But now it appears we're in for a much longer game. Important to remember that no matter how good the last few plays have looked for the Unicorns of Love, that a single lost fight at this stage of the game should end it in the favor of Splyce.
Right, that's the thing. Unicorns are going to have to continue and fight after fight, play this long con stall type game, where Splyce really just need a Baron. I think Baron could lock in a victory for them, assuming, of course, they can use that siege down, which you would expect them to be able to.
Humanoid waiting off onto the side lane. You can see he's no longer walking face first into the Rise, giving a lot of respect over to No Man's. No Man's has the TP, Boss, and Axe as well. Kave opting for the Combat Summoner. We'll have to see if it costs his team anything.
So one thing that Unicorns have done pretty consistently when trying to check in towards Baron Vision when they don't have it, they actually split up. One person will go down through the Raptor Bush, the other one will go above, and a lot of times Splyce love to catch the player that goes above. A lot of times that is going to be Edward as well, so I think Unicorns need to be a little bit smarter in how they approach those tight corridors and not isolate individual members if they don't want to get picked off before this does spawn. Always going to be a difficult task, though, when you don't have any vision inside of the jungle. It's just a guessing game. When do you pull the trigger and risk losing your life and try and make sure you have eyes on the Baron? They do have double blue trinket they need to use.
One going to be used. TP now coming in. No Man's coming into the fight. Splyce just going to pull back. Zichachi will not be caught out.
It's actually a really clever adaptation. That's 4 blue trinkets on the side of the Unicorns of Love. They know that they are isolated to their base, so regular yellow trinkets are going to be practically useless. They need this deep vision if they are to see it on the Baron. Boss, the only other member with one, though, and he's not with the team, so Splyce will be able to start this one up without any vision on it.
No Man's TP. Just going to go straight into the middle of the pit. They're not going to be scared. They're not going to be bullied off. And Anasik. Now Chachi goes in, and Anasik still waiting over the wall. 3K left on the health. They're not going to get anything. Kave cutting through the team. Splyce now on a rampage as Humanoid jumps onto the backside of the fight. Edward trying desperately to lock up Humanoid. Boss now goes in, wants to finish someone out, but Kave still has ult. A double kill for him. Humanoid fishing for a few more. It's going to be 2 for him. It looks like 3. Edward now running for the hills, and this is going to be the end for the side of Splyce. It wasn't the cleanest finish, but what it mattered most, Splyce show up. They close out the game. They will move up to match point at the end of this one, despite the shakeups in the mid-game. They were dominant from start to finish, a massive lead that Unicorns of Love never conquered. As a result, Splyce will take Game 3 and move up to match point. And Splyce looking progressively more dominant as the series has gone on. But the fans of Unicorns and the fans of Edward will not let that stop them.
Splyce continue to come in with very strong early game plans. Helmed by Xerxes, I think this team has proved that they are the significantly better team in terms of snowballing games and getting early advantages. I think that in this one in particular, they came with a very clear idea of how to deal with this Caitlyn Morgana in the bottom lane. And ultimately, I was very impressed with especially those first 15 minutes. I think that this team really did dominate. And I expect to see more of these moves coming through from this team, because if you can just snowball super heavily early on, it puts you in a much better position to try and close.
And I think you see the theoretical, or you talk a lot about the theoretical output of an Olaf pick. This is something that I think so many teams fall short of. I'm not always happy to see an Olaf locked in because of how hard it falls off. But in a game like that, in a game where you dominate from start to finish, where you do use that early game strength in your favor, you can't deny how effective this pick is, how scary this pick is. Even if it's not the choice that jumps into your brain when you think of what exactly Xerxes is going to bring to the table.
Yeah, I mean, when you have the ability to go for that split map and play off the jungle timers of invades and trying to just take all the camps from your opponents, definitely gives you a lot more options. This is going to be the Baron fight one more time. And this is what I was sort of talking about before it happened, where they split up, Unicorns of Love, they split up how they come over towards this Baron, and then Vizichachi says, I'm going straight over the wall, finds both No Man's and Inox. Doesn't land the stun onto No Man's, but it doesn't really matter because No Man's flashes straight into the face of Humanoid's Akali. So this was the turn we were waiting for. They weren't quite able to find that full team fight they needed, primarily because Unicorns were sticking in their base for so long, and Splyce really just needed that massive neutral objective to lure that 5-man stack of UOL in to get that initiation.
Yeah, and clutch play from Zichachi to go over the wall to lock up 2 of those carries. And sadly for Edward on the side of Unicorns of Love, Black Shield's ability that is not lived by the mantra of better late than never. It's on time or not very effective. But Splyce, of course, have bounced back in style, and they are just 1 win away from groups. We're going to have to see if they can close things out right after this.
Splyce going to be looking for the dive. They have a lot of damage.
All he has is pool. He levels up there, though. Maybe this can be it. Edward flashing backwards. Still looks like he's going to go down. That's first blood locked up, though. And Axe, they're trying to pitch for a kill. Kave might just get taken out. It's good juggling of tower aggro. Trying to outmaneuver this one. Needs to dodge Cocoon. They knock him into the wall. He flashes away. Needs to get more range. Trying to transform. Does not get the chance. Chachi, Mini Nog's about to come out. He's going to be a lot squishier. He's locked up. No Man's is coming in here as well. But Kave is just murdering absolutely everyone. Has the Seraph. Shield has the black shield. The shutdown now comes in. Vizichachi now in trouble. Splice have overstayed their welcome. The Nara is not going to go Mega, but he will go straight to the grave. Now Chachi goes in, and Onasix still waiting over the wall. 3K left on the health. They're not going to get anything. Kave cutting through the team. Splice now on a rampage as Humanoid jumps onto the backside of the fight. Edward trying desperately to lock up Humanoid. Boss now goes in, wants to finish someone out, but Kave still has ult. As a result, Splice will take game 3 and move up to match point.
to World 2019, where Splice are on the verge of securing a group stage spot. They've turned the entire series on its head with two very dominating wins. Game 1 maybe should have been a dominating win. But there's no disagreement. All of the pressure is on UOL now to find a way back into the series. What do you think?
Yeah, something definitely needs to change because early game advantages turn into mid-game fumbles and then eventually late-game closeouts with ease here for Splice.
I feel like something that we're consistently seeing from Splice is a very large early game impact with Xerxes and how he is often playing around his two solo laners and enabling their already strong matchups. This game, or at least in the last one, we saw him playing a lot through the bot lane, but it feels like that Ananasik cannot control the impact that Xerxes is having on the map right now.
No, absolutely not. So how does Ananasik and the Unicorns of Love find a way to control the early game monster that you're seeing on your screen? Because it feels like Xerxes has had an impact every single game, EJ.
Yeah, and I think the most difficult thing is that it takes away from what has been successful for this team. Vedius was saying it earlier on in the day, Ananasik is the bridge which very often gets this team from early to mid-game, gets them an advantage, and all of the action comes from himself, but because it's a collective effort, the solo lane is linking up with Xerxes and collectively like forcing him out of his jungle, it's very difficult to look at the jungler for UOL and be like, you're the guy that always steps up, just do it now, because he doesn't have the resources to do so.
So let's turn our attention then to Boss and to No Man's. They have, maybe Boss a little more, had moments of brilliance, and they have had some impactful team fights. I can think of the Kale, the Aatrox from earlier in the series. So how do we get these guys feeling more comfortable? Maybe Vedius.
Well, I do think that we want to see some changes in the draft. At the beginning of every Analyst Desk segment, we often talk about how they don't have winning solo lanes, they don't have winning solo lanes, and I felt like that at least in Game 3, No Man's on this rise. I felt that he was much more impactful, or at least he had more room to play with in this matchup. And with the Camille top lane, again, you could see what they were going for. They were actually trying to enable their solo laners. It was just that the early game did not go in their favor. And I would quite like UOL to stick with this strategy. Even if things have not been going your way, it feels like that right now what you've currently been doing is not working. So have a little bit more of an early game presence with tools to enable you to play through at the later stage if things don't go your way early.
Yeah, and I think to put a lens on that game specifically, I think it already was a bit of a switch up, right? This is the Xayah first pick into Kate Morgana. Very obvious, let's play bottom side, let's play through the Caitlyn lane. But it's just leveraging the fact that you expect your opponents to pick the Rakan. That didn't happen, the Karma versus the Morgana matchup, and then we all saw what happened in the early game. So I would like to see the switcheroo again here from UOL and be like, look, bottom side, we had our one crack. It's not usually how we like to do it. Let's flip those resources back towards Boss, back towards No Man's, and give priority to the jungler, because it has been a more reliable strategy for them in the past.
I think the inherent reality here is that UOL are not favored to be able to turn this one around. It is an uphill battle to climb, and there is a reason why we predicted 3-0, and if that throw hadn't happened in Game 1, the series could already be over. But
And if I had $1 million, I'd be a millionaire.
sure, right? But the main point is that I think that Splice have dominated,
Yes.
and we've been talking a lot more about how Splice have played this series because it feels like the Splice are in control. And for the Unicorns of Love, this is potentially their last game of the year. They've done a great job so far at the World's Championship, upsetting the likes of Clutch 2 times. Now their last hurrah, potentially taking us to a Game 5. If they have anything secret prepared, if they have any special strats, this is your last chance, potentially, to pull out all the stops.
Vedius, we just saw Sheepy walking on stage with the Unicorns of Love, a man that tried to make it to the World Championship for 3 years here in the EULCS. He was prevented at the final hurdle by Splice, the organization, with Cobby at the helm. And now Sheepy has to figure out how to stop Xerxes and Vizichachi, the players that he relied on for years. Vizichachi played 226 games with a UOL jersey on his back. What is going through Sheepy's head when he's staring down the players that he used to coach and lead?
You suck. I'm going to beat you. Let's go. We're going to game 5.
Ejim, how does he do it?
Well, he just needs to think pink. It's front and center on the jersey. It's like right up in the middle. And maybe for UOL, the 2 former members are still thinking pink. And then that's a win con.
I don't think I quite know what think pink means, but I'm going to ask the casters to figure it out. Only one win is standing between Splice and a spot in the group stage. Let's see if they can close out the series.
I also have no idea what that means, but thank you, Quick Shot.
Just think pink, Dracos. It's easy.
So historically, that was Gnar, Vladimir, team fight at 20 minutes, win the game. But I don't know if that's an option this time around. It's a big question to be answered as we go into game 4. Now, of course, game 1, bam, Splice couldn't close the game. UOL brought it back. Game 2, Splice could close the game. Game 3, Splice could close the game. And for game 4, UOL need to come out swinging, I feel like, in this early game. Need to do something to stop themselves from getting absolutely run over.
Well, the Unicorns are back to blue after choosing that side here, so I think they're fleet up a little bit more. They don't necessarily have to ban the Pantheon on blue side, so they do get to leverage an extra ban and get both Kiana and Xayah knocked on out here. But the war of the fans in the studio is absolutely incredible. I love it.
They're going all in. I respect the Unicorns Love fans because they are standing closer to the stage, but the Splice fans are matching them.
Unicorns also have an actual unicorn in the studio.
That is an actual unicorn. That's true. 100%. You can see one live in person. Buy tickets for Worlds.
All right.
Unicorns of Love down, but not out. They have one more game to turn this series around and take us to a game 5. If you want to hear Silver Scrapes, you are thinking pink right now.
I love this. Unicorns, 3 bans leveraged at top lane. Either the Syndra or the Kiana is going to be left open here from the side of Splice. This is what we were expecting in game 1. We ran the prep drafts. We thought Unicorns, there's no way they banned the Kiana themselves. They can pick that up and now give the Xayah over. But they do have answers. The Heimerdinger, Morgana left open here if they want to knock that one into the Splice bottom lane.
See what they want to do. How exactly want to deal with 2 very obnoxious picks to lane against.
The problem is, I think, so Xerxes might just go for his jungler here, and now you can't necessarily pick the Morgana, right? If you go for the heavy, prio bottom lane to counter out Rakan, well, then they just pick the Karma. And if you don't go for it, then they just pick the Rakan, and they win either way. So Unicorns of Love is in a really tough position right here, and I think I agree with the analyst desk. Stop trying to win lane through bottom lane. I don't actually want to see the Morgana here. I'd much rather see something like the Nautilus Kai'Sa as a lock-in, and then play towards your top side, but that wouldn't be UOL style.
There's a Heimerdinger open, and that means UOL are going to pick a Heimerdinger. That would be spicy. I don't think that one's happening.
I don't think that one's happening, Dracos.
But what I do love is that we heard from the desk, Vedius trying to get in Sheepy's head and saying, I'm going to crush you, Chachi. Well, he hasn't crushed him yet, but he did ban 3 of his champions. So options are quite limited for the side of Vizichachi, and I feel like he should probably pick a champion here. He might even get more bans levied against him. The Nico, of course, still on the table, and that Renekton only gets scarier as the options get more and more limited for Vizichachi himself.
The Nico's the one I'm watching. I think Rumble, too, is something that Vizichachi could try to take up into this Renekton. I actually don't even know what he goes for if both those champions get banned away right here. I mean, so far in play-ins, before the series today, it only played the Kennen, the Gnar, and the Gangplank. Of course, added the Cho'Gath to that list earlier, but definitely a smaller pool that he's shown. And against the Renekton, it's weird because I think the Nico is something I'd like to see him on. He played that a couple times, I think, in the regular season, but not a pick I would necessarily associate with him. It is those power 3 that UOL took away from him to deny.
And now the Fiddle's been banned away. I imagine the Morgana will follow. No, interesting. Ooh. The Twisted Fate. So they're not as concerned with that Morgana pick from Edward.
Still really worried about the TF. Almost every game Splice has played here, it's a second phase Twisted Fate ban. Now, if they're following common trends, they go ahead and run out of this rotation and pick themselves a counter Trinecton. It's going to be the Nico of the Rumble. I'm pretty positive. And then Humanoid can get his counter pick. Now, Akali has been banned away, and that was the thing he went blind for in game number 1. So unless he thinks he needs to deny the Corki from No Man's, I think he just waits to get that perfect matchup. Yeah.
I mean, at this point, if Vizichachi's playing into No Man's not known as a Renekton player, that would be a massive throwback. I believe it was 2017 Spring MVP was Vizichachi on the back of incredible Shen performances for the Unicorns of Love themselves. feels a little bit fitting that in what could be their final game at Worlds, he will play the Shen against them.
And now you've got the Shen Nocturne for dive, Shen Rakan for dive, whatever you want to do. Now, the strange thing is that they did leave the Morgana open, so the counter is definitely there, and they didn't decide to remove all of those options here from UOL. And now just looking at this draft, it feels like there's so many strong lanes to try and play around. I was not expecting this. This could be Qiyana in the mid lane now, or it could be Karthus in the mid lane. There's flex options now for the side of UOL to try and guarantee themselves a good matchup up against Humanoid, even though he does have counter pick.
This draft is all over the place. You could opt for the Lissandra here. Obviously very easy for her to get on top of a pick like Karthus or Qiyana, and it looks like they're okay with either of those matchups as they will lock it in, and it should go into the hands of Humanoid.
So we know why Splyce left open Heimerdinger and Morgana. It's because they are going to kill bottom lane at level 6. You don't survive against this. Lissandra is going to have a window to try and roam against whoever she lanes against. Xerxes on the Nocturne with the Shen on top. You have the ability to just break the game open through bottom lane. And some pretty passive solo laners to try and just get through the laning phase till you can make that point happen. We're still waiting on the final lock-in here from UOL. I think you might actually take the Karthus into Lissandra. Lissandra, too many good defensive tools to lane up against the Qiyana is my read on the situation, but they are going to put that back into mid lane at the last second.
See what Anonysek can do here in the early game. Just about farming up, fighting for that level 6, racing against the Nocturne, who will probably have a similar goal. Shen, of course, an interesting champion. Can be pretty strong in the early game, all about where those first few ults go. If he can make an impact on the map, or potentially find a lead in the laning phase. A nigh impossible task against the likes of Renekton, but if anyone can do it, it is Vizichachi, longtime Shen enthusiast. Sheepy checking his watch. Duke and Sheepy walking away. And this could very well be the final game. Splyce versus Unicorns of Love. A matchup I never thought we would get to see on the international stage after the group draw, but sometimes the script is just a little too perfect, Ender.
Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is. Getting ready to get onto the Rift right here. And both these teams with the tournament life on the line for Unicorns of Love. We need 2 wins in a row to stay alive, while Splyce just need one more perfect early game, one more closeout to punch their ticket to the group stage.
And that man with a pineapple showing his praise to Anonysek. And this is it, match point. Splyce with the game advantage. It is on UOL to take us to a game 5. And hopefully they can hear the Silver Scrapes playing already. Early game is going to be the biggest decider here, Ender, as it often is.
So this is a game where we're not going to see that crazy level 1 strategy from Splyce, I don't think. Don't have the same early game presence of an Olaf or a Karma to try and divvy up the map right off the bat.
And of course, for Splyce, their early game has been dominant in all 3 of our games, even in the one that Unicorns of Love managed to pull ahead of. You can see game 1, game 2, that is consistency, regardless of composition. 6.2K in game 3, that's terrifying. Not going to happen anymore, you already mentioned it. There's no Olaf this time, so probably not nearly as easy to snowball something like that.
Maybe some moves coming through from UOL here. This Boss, remember, game 1 started off with Splyce setting up 5 members to try and punish Boss for sitting in that bush. Surprised, honestly, he went for it again in this game.
They're now moving into the enemy jungle.
This is what I was waiting for, though. Because Karth is so strong at level 1, now they have the ability to try and split the map, and this is going to buy the freest laning phase for Edward and Inax. Now, when we saw this duo run it up against Clutch, there were some misplays on their side. They had to lose their flash at level 1, so you have to be careful for that Rakan to jump onto you and then potentially lose a trade. But the ideal situation now for UOL is that they can absorb this first wave, freeze the lane on their side while Anonysek is on this bottom side of the map, and then Kabi and Norskaren don't really get to play the game. They sort of feel the pain that Inax and Edward were in last game in the same situation.
Once again, the map is divided. Top side for the likes of Xerxes, bottom side for Anonysek and the Unicorns of Love. And on the top, already you can see the Vizichachi is doing quite well in the respective lane matchup. Has yet to hit level 2, however, so less than ideal. Forced off the wave as Boss gets his a little bit ahead of schedule. So while level 1 looked good, now the Boss is level 2. Now that he has a bit of Fury to back up those abilities, it is going to be a bit harder for Chachi. A good bounce, though, means that Chachi should be able to hold it on his side of the lane for a little while. Downside, though, Boss now gets to move into his own jungle to keep an eye on this Nocturne.
Ooh, getting the collapse now on towards Xerxes. He might have to flash away from here. Anonysek is already level 3.
Stepping in. Spell Shield is there, forcing the flash out from Xerxes. Well played.
finally flipping the script on this jungle matchup. This entire game, it has been Xerxes punishing, or this entire series, rather, it's been Xerxes punishing Ananasik. Now Ananasik so strong on the Karthus, can clear the jungle so fast, skipped his red buff entirely to make this invade happen. Now trying to steal away the Krug camp. Xerxes can't actually contest with this. It's just not possible.
And Vizichachi can go in to try to help, but Boss is there. And even if you kill the Karthus, his damage output remains.
Ananasik has finally out-jungled Xerxes at the start of the game. We've waited 3 games. Xerxes has always had the upper hand. Now he bought bottom lane, a free winning matchup. Top lane now too, gets to fully shove in. He denies multiple camps inside of Xerxes' jungle. This is absolutely perfect play on the Karthus.
And Boss continuing to hold pressure. No Man's doing fine in the mid lane match, but as we mentioned already, level 6 is the point where this game really will break open for one of these teams. It is either the Requiem for Karthus, or it is the Submarine with both the Shen and the Nocturne moving on to that bottom side. Edward and Inox have to be ready, because while the Black Shield is nice, it is not enough to stop a Lissandra, a Rakan, a Nocturne, and a Shen from diving in. That is the power of the Splice composition.
You always have to be concerned for that bot lane dive when level 6s do come through. I can't help but look at these compositions too and feel like Unicorns 11 is sort of all over the place in what they want, especially as we look later in the game towards team fighting. You know, they have a very strong soul laner in Renekton. Kiana will scale up into being quite the threat, but as far as team fighting goes, it's rather strange because their consistent DPS is all going to be magic damage, so Splice can definitely try to itemize against that. And it's not the most reliable of outputs in a true 5 versus 5. When you are rocking mage compositions, you have to be much more mindful of your cooldowns. And while, you know, Ananasik doesn't have to be super concerned with that because he just smashes his Q button, Inax and Edward definitely do have to be much more aware. So team fights are going to be about finding picks, finding burst trades with their ranged pick tools on the side of Unicorns of Love, as opposed to just running into that straight up front to back, which is what Splice definitely want to go for.
And the theory crafting is there, and I'm curious to see if we even get to that stage. Because as much credit as you're giving them, you're talking about kind of how these team fights could play out. We just have yet to really see an early game from Unicorns of Love, up until this game, where they aren't falling incredibly far behind very early on. And we're in X pretty far forward here.
They need to burn the Black Shield from Edward, or he can't really do anything. Now, the wave isn't, you know, as stacked in UOL's favor, so they don't have that to work with. Seems like Splice just want to set up this push to buy a reset for Kabe and Northscairn, make sure they're the ones back to base first. And what this actually buys is effectively 2 times, or 2 waves that you have push lead on. Unless their resets get canceled every single time, or unless they want to go for it at all. Kabe should go back to base, maybe look to teleport in himself.
And X and Edward starting to run out of mana, though. Don't know if they're actually going to be able to get a punish off here. Important to note, Kabe does have the TP. Last game he opted for the heal, a bit more combat efficiency, but this time we'll be able to make it back to the lane phase pretty quickly.
I think Unicorns missed a potential window. They're trying to full push this wave, but with the TP on the other side, Kabe is pretty free to clear that up. Now, I was looking at an Ananasik and thinking, if you freeze the wave on your side of the map down bottom lane, Ananasik can roll on in and deny Kabe. Because if he TP's in, I mean, his support can't join him. That's not a Yumi. So it would be a 1v3 situation, but because the lane gets shoved all the way into his tower, he's able to pick it all up and now freeze it on his side. And by keeping this cannon minion here, he'll be able to deny a lot of minions. Because cannon minions do a whole bunch, and that's going to keep Frozen on their side. Now, Inax in the potentially rough situation with the potential flank from Northscairn to make it on down here.
And the other thing I like about this is it does free Northscairn up to roam to place down a little bit of vision, knowing that his AD carry is safe, freezing that wave under tower. But it's a similar position now for Edward. Has to be a little bit careful, though. Inax is, looks like in a vulnerable position, but they're not going to spot this one out, so they're not going to get it. Knocked back into the wall and instantly killed. Edward's going to grab that first blood. That was so clean.
That was super clever, too, because not only does the Black Shield stop it from Humanoid, you know, locking down No Man's and making sure it can't get out, it denies the Aftershock proc from Humanoid, too. He can't get that bonus resistance to try and stay alive as Boss takes a really big trade, but look at this. Both Ananasik and No Man's are on the way for the dive.
Coming top wave. They don't have vision in that brush. Ananasik and No Man's are right there. Humanoid can't afford to step forward. Hits that stun. Must have been a visual bug on our end, but it now looks like Humanoid is trying to escape. Forced to use the ulti on himself. Good bit of damage comes down, but a lot of pressure now on the top side. Dark Harvest stack over to the like of Ananasik. Xerxes, though, already on the bottom side of the map, responding with a Drake. Will they go for the dive here?
It's going to be hard to. With Shen ultimate up and available. Humanoid does not have his own, though, but Ananasik on the card is so good at diving towers, can just go for poke trades.
Ulti coming out, trying to make sure that Vizichachi can't cancel it, yeah.
Ambitious use right there, but they will be able to pick up at least 1 plate for themselves. That's a taunt!
For Vizichachi, trying to buy a bit more time with Spirit's Refuge, but he can't sidestep enough. The Skittles! Gonna take him down, taste the rainbow on the top side of the map.
Straight up greed right there. Vizichachi thought he could make the play, has the flash, but does not use it. Now Unicorn's going to be trading money on the top side for the late game insurance of that Mountain Drake. I think that's going to be a trade up for Unicorns because honestly, this entire series, they've been playing from a deficit. If you come out of the early game, even or with a lead as Unicorns, you all of a sudden have so much more confidence in your mid-game abilities to try and fight up against the side of Splice.
Just huge stun there on Kabe. With the Lost Chapter now completed for the Heimerdinger, he can just indefinitely kind of spam out these towers, especially as levels start to come more towards him. Humanoid, though, in the mid lane has the blue buff. And now as we look in on the top side, you can see this was very back and forth play overall.
Yeah, so right now they're just chipping out underneath the tower. Humanoid doing a relatively decent job of dodging away from some abilities. Then with the potion ticking, I think that's a bit overambitious, as I mentioned, from an Anasik. And this is where we see Vizichachi. Usually taunt champions are super good at protecting against tower dives, but Boss with the healing he gets, as well as the double dash, makes it so Vizichachi doesn't really stand a chance. And also, Karthus Q does double damage when it only hits one target. Vizichachi had no minions around him either, so it was a pretty easy pickup for an Anasik.
And the top lane matchup will only get harder as we get out of the early laning phase. Of course, Shen, a lot of kind of just strong base numbers on his kit, but the way things have been going, you can see more and more gold going to the pocket of a Nanasik. And whichever one of you in the audience brought a pineapple, this is the time to raise it high, because this man is set to carry the game.
He's doing it.
Bring the pineapple. And that's what we've been waiting for, Pineapple Man. We've been waiting to see a Nanasik show up. We said junglers will be the difference makers, and this time it's a Nanasik backed up by all of UOL to secure an early game. You know, almost a 20 CS lead for a Karthus, and once he starts to get magic penetration itemization, you are not going to want to go toe-to-toe with him.
Look at this move from UOL. They tracked Xerxes on the top side of the map with all those deep wards. See him spotting over that, so had brought an Anasik over to potentially try and deny some minions. And now, you know, we have level 6 on Xerxes, we have level 7 on Vizichachi. Humanoid 2 has his ultimate. I'm just waiting for that play. You know, Splice, they had the setup. We wanted to see them attack the bottom lane. That has yet to happen. And I can't help but feel like a lot of it is because they don't know where Nanasik is. You know, the Karthus clears jungle much faster than any other pick in the game. And playing from back foot, haven't been able to do much.
Pulling back with the Karthus is right here in the midst of the fight. The Kiana throws them back. They're right into Karthus. That's not where you want to be. They might get the Kiana, but they won't get anything. Humanoid now has to run for the hills. Shen comes over the wall, tries to buy a bit more time, and Anasik throws down the Skittle, trying to finish off. Humanoid won't quite do it. Rakan here to try and save the day, but the ultimate is off cooldown. Presence of mind, resetting it right
the Guardian
most. But Northscarin is there. A Guardian indeed. The mastery will stop that from turning any further against the likes of Splice.
Unreal right there. Splice do make it work somewhat in the end, but this is what I was talking about. They are not tracking a Nanasik to the same level they've been able to all series long. A Nanasik definitely showing up where he needs to be, when he needs to be. Kabe still has access to ultimate, so he's going to be all right.
Of course, the Heimerdinger, rather, not Hecarim. Ulti was used there in that exchange. And now Humanoid getting bullied out here in the mid lane. Opted to go for the Revolver instead of, very often we see the early Lost Chapter into the Protobelt, but seems to be doing fine on mana thus far. Protobelt will help him out in the individual 1v1, as well as any coming team fights. Binding. Good from Vizichachi holding on there, but Boss just continue to press an advantage here, and we have a huge lead for the side of Unicorns of Love, Ender.
Right, it's a really interesting game now. You know, UOL have this big lead, but when you look at these two comps, they both play on such long cooldown windows before they can make plays. You know, Nanasik, his ultimate, No Man's, huge playmaking tool there as well, and Splice, we know the level 6s are so key too. But I think when you compare the base kits of these champions, you know, just the 3 spells, not including the ultimate, you have to almost always favor, you know, the Renekton, the Karthus in the jungle as well, even the Heimerdinger just to get push off down bottom lane. So when we are in these windows where, you know, both teams don't have the tools necessarily to fight, I almost always give the upper hand to the Unicorns.
Next flashing out, Northscarin now in trouble. Giving a lot of respect over there to the opposition as Boss breaks that tower. Rest of the team now taking up home in the mid lane, but Humanoid pretty comfortable to clear out these waves. Protobelt's forward to try to get it done. And now dashes away, but in the meantime, the Rift Herald has already dropped, and that means a few more free plates for the likes of No Man's. See if they want to share the gold or just give it over to him. It looks like Anasik wants in on the action. Humanoid has to back off here. Big damage! Had the ulti up and available, does not get the chance to use it.
Unicorns might be able to look for more. Check this out. Boss has moved down from the top lane in towards mid. They can completely deny Splice away from this tower. There's a Drake spawning up too, but if they're able to kill the tower before the Rift Herald does die, maybe they can take that charge. Wasn't able to tell if that did go down.
TP
It
now
did
from the
fall.
bottom side. Kabe moving in. The Heimerdinger running for his life. Kabe desperately wants this kill here. Xerxes now backing off. Double daggers come through. Inax, no mana. Kabe going to finish that one out and walk away cleanly. Good punish from Splice.
Definitely needed to see that move come from them after Unicorns took that mid lane tower. Now Unicorns, they have that major objective knocked away, and Nanasik getting
That-
feisty.
Skittles get harder to hit as enemy team gets boots.
Looks impossible.
It's Dance Dance Revolution.
No Man's has ultimate. Does he want to go?
I don't think he wants...
think
This is super questionable.
He's feeling it.
He's going to back off.
Walking in 1v3. Oh,
Now
no.
gets locked up. Hello? No Man's?
Oh!
That's huge! But still a 1-for-1. Shut down onto the Kiana. I'm going to say not worth. Bold play.
I think he was trying to see if an Nanasik could get an ultimate in there too. Maybe if some spells go the right way, they can turn that into a 1-for-2. But I agree, over-ambitious for sure coming through from No Man's, just trying to style on these kids.
Kiana does only get scarier too. The bad news is whoever you give gold to on the enemy team also going to get a lot stronger, a lot faster. Shutdown's key for Splice to come back into this game. All right, so thought process here.
So actually, watch Norscarin, because I think he hides behind the wall. No Man's can't see him charge the ultimate. Yeah, there you go. Then gets the flash into W knockup. Still the immediate one-shot onto Xerxes. And yeah, he actually throws 2 Qs at Xerxes that don't do anything. I think if he hits Norscarin, either A, he one-shots him, because he was doing an obscene amount of damage, or B, it gets him in threshold so that Nanasik can drop the Requiem on him.
Still, potentially an unnecessary risk. But
For sure.
as we mentioned before, UOL still with a handsome enough lead that they can feel pretty comfortable. 1.5 items coming through for Kabe.
Where have I seen this before?
Picks up a second BF sword. This is how Splice was doing.
Yeah, and that's what Spice was doing, Dracos. Taking unnecessary risks. Still won, though.
Yeah, it did. And the thing is it's only going to get scarier too, because now you're looking down. Luden's Echo for the Heimer. You're very close to a Duskblade. Karthus is hit double magic penetration items. Level 11 is the next thing you need to look for. Double magic penetration plus level 11 Karthus at this point in the game is incredibly oppressive. Requiem does so much damage, and the cute little Merc Treads for Vizichachi is really the only form of magic resistance on the team outside of Norscarin's matching pair. So,
And Nanasik hurts, okay?
Yeah, that's the bottom line.
It's really, really painful. Here's 4 members try to collapse on towards bottom lane. They still have TP2.
Wall of Pain. Humanoid now needs to retreat. A Protobelt to dodge the Skittle. He's walking further under. Good spell shield comes out. Locked up by the Water Blade, though. Humanoid trying to buy a bit more time. Meanwhile, Boss is going in on the top side. Inax going to grab Humanoid. Boss going to get spotted out here, though. They're going to look to collapse on the Renekton. He will be able to walk away. Picture-in-picture action as Unicorns of Love set their sights on that Ocean Drake.
Unicorns getting everything they need right there, punishing Humanoid down on that bottom side of the map. And Bosch is buying more and more time here. Speaking of unnecessary risk, he's going in, but he knows there's no one else really here.
He's a level 11 Renekton with the Spear of Shojin. No one's trying to take that fight right now. Edward, though, continuing to clear out vision. Unicorns of Love choking out on the bottom side, making sure that Splice cannot farm comfortably. Edward still has to be careful, though. Inax still has to be careful, though. Heimerdinger going to do a lot, but there's no ultimate available. Makes him much easier to leap on top of.
So one fun little thing going on with the Unicorns composition right here is Karthus' Wall of Pain does shred magic resistance of his target. So whenever he drops that Wall of Pain, it A, sets up for a skill shot like the Empowered W from Inax's Heimerdinger, which is that giant laser cannon that goes flying at your face. It slows him down to make that hit pretty quickly, and it also makes him take a lot more damage from it. So look for some one-shots later on, assuming Inax can get some more gold under his belt.
Does he get the Heimerdinger dream of empowering the Rockets on the W and sending them through 5 people in a team fight? That's what we're going to have to find out.
I'm waiting. And if you can't finish them off, then you have the Requiem on top of that.
My question for you, Ender, is do we get the exact opposite of Game 1?
Oh, no.
Where UOL are super far ahead, look like they're on the verge of closing, and then Splice turn it around. Because Splice do have a lot of good team fighting tools. Shen, probably not the best scaling pick, but we've seen what Kabe can get done with enough CC to support him, and he certainly has enough CC to support him.
Yeah, so I honestly could see it happening because I think, realistically, I like a lot of Splice's odds in later game fights. The problem I think they're going to run into is them potentially lacking damage. You know, once a lot of people start to build more defensive on the side of Unicorns of Love, Xerxes going to be a lot less effective.
Grassblade goes in, waiting, going to dash out to safety. A second Grassblade, waiting out Xerxes' ultimate, is going to ult right back onto Norscarin. A little bit.
Good playing with his food. Nightmares. Nightmares right there.
That does not seem fair. All right, well, he has a support. All that MR he's buying doesn't really help him against the Kiana. The Glacier Shroud, a little cute there, but without any more than making up the difference.
I do think teamfights will get interesting, though, because Unicorns have a lot of anti-dive tools. Not going to have too much time to think about that, though, because 18 minutes on the clock. Unicorns still playing on offense, pushing just about everywhere. One person is on another side of the map, buying time.
Dashes over the wall. Ult's there. He's going to try to dash.
Oh, no.
Kiana is so powerful. Kabe gets locked up. If he grabs
Can he
him,
turn?
He can kill. He can kill. He can kill. He can kill. He's going to try to finish it. No, the shutdown is there.
Look at bot lane, though. They keep on going with the push. The minions underneath the tower. Chachi just trying to hold on. He has a Tiamat, but he can't step forward and actually out of the wave.
Chachi's going in. There's so much magic damage. Uses the stopwatch to try to buy time, but Ananasik is now stepping forward. The ulti's already been used by the Karthus. They now need to retreat. TP for Humanoid is up and available. TP for Kabi a few seconds away, but they're not going to go in for anything more. 6K gold lead to UOL at the end of that play.
It's really important that Splice keep funneling all these kills on towards Kabe. Yes, he burnt his ultimate and the flash, just try and chase down and get that kill, but that's an important shutdown for him, and staying even at least in terms of levels at the moment, trying to hold on in terms of gold. No Man's trying to go for this play. I actually think he surprised himself with the amount of damage he did. He was walking away, he's like, wait a second, that's just one more auto attack. And Kabi says, I need to get in here.
Oh, yeah, okay. So it looks like he doesn't have the cooldown to grab the mountain blade, or he most certainly would have killed him. The terrain blade, I don't know. Yeah, that was my face. That's how I felt, too.
Same.
Any of those faces, they're all fine.
Get that man a pineapple. He's already got one. He's playing jungle for him.
Pineapples. Oh, no! Oh, my God! That was a supreme display of balance. There's not much more to say about that one. No Man's now has to run for the hills. Grass Blade will give him stealth. They have no way to auto-attack him. The Fear is going to take him just outside. Edward, too little too late. Good that they're able to grab a kill back, but here comes the Heimerdinger, the flash, the ult. Here comes the big tower, and there's nowhere for Xerxes to go. It does stop the tower from auto-attacking, though, when you TP to it, so...
Do they just go Baron here? 10 seconds away, and Anasik...
Humanoid has a Shen TPing in, but they need to get away. He's just going to flash over the wall. The dash comes in. He's going to walk away as he clears the wave.
Okay, I don't think he has enough mana to go for the Baron here.
He has blue buff.
It's true.
The Heimer, they don't have the vision cleared out. 14 seconds left on Xerxes.
This ward is going to reveal them, though, and that's gonna be trouble for them with a lot of TPs
Unless they know.
on Splice. Oh, they know.
Humanoid, Kabe, TPs. Vizichachi here. Wall of Pain comes out. Vizichachi potentially in trouble. Will dash to safety, but Norskaren is here as well with the double buff he got earlier. Don't think this is the point where they try to turn. Boss going to step forward on a Norskaren, though. Black Shield going to make sure that he can move his way into this one. Can't get a second dash out. Instead, he's focusing on Vizichachi for now.
Smart move from Boss there, of course. Shen can just drop the W on himself and block all auto attacks, which means no stun can come through from Renekton. Still Unicorns using this pressure to move in towards an Ocean Drake. There's not a lot that Splice can do against this, so I like their maneuver now. Splitting sides of the map, they can try to get some vision control of their own around this area, because with a Karthus and a Heimerdinger, that Baron goes down fast. And with a Kiana and a Morgana, this Lysandre's going to go down fast too.
Locked down, gonna try to walk away. Oh.
Just kidding, just kidding. I didn't mean it. I meant it.
You didn't mean it. He's going in. You didn't mean it. Humanoid lives. Vizichachi body. Oh,
he doesn't have ult.
Guardian! Norskaren!
Absolutely clutch.
5 Lysandra, Norskaren. Whatever else happens this game is a hero.
That was a roller coaster, Dracos.
Yeah, saving Private Ryan, way worse than saving Humanoid mid. That's all I'm going to say. This is way crazier. Oh, God.
Oh, man.
I mean, whatever else happens, we can all be happy that we're going out on a banger. This is a crazy game.
Yeah, kind of a crazy series when you think about it. Unicorns able to pull that game one from the clutches of defeat, now sitting pretty in game number 4 with a 6K gold lead. Rabadon's now finished on a Nanasik. If you thought this guy was strong before, he now has, I want to say 500 AP.
And look, if you're on the side of Unicorns of Love, the triple ban Chachi strategy is looking really good for you, because it opens up so many champions, and Splice can't take them all. Splice isn't taking your Heimerdinger. They might take your Kiana jungle. They're not taking your Renekton.
Yeah, it's so hard too with Splice's dive comp to actually kill the backline because of all the peel tools of the Black Shield. Even if you kill, the Karthus, he's still going to be pumping out damage. Inax 2 can just drop the big tower, so what Splice's comp wants to do is kind of difficult to pull off against a strong Unicorns of Love composition here.
Trying to check the pit, trying desperately to move in. One blue trinket up and available for Kabe. Got to feel like he uses it now. 6K getting lower. Xerxes could have his hero moment right here.
Always watch the flank from Noman's. Flanking on Kiana is so pivotal.
They just go back to the Baron, though. They just go back to the Baron in the meantime. That's the claw burned. They can just walk right into the pit. The TV's coming in, but it's going to be too little too late. He tries to make his way in. Is it going to be enough? He got it! Xerxes gets it. The taunt is there for follow-up, and they might lose the following fight. The Kiana cannot find a way in. That is a heroic moment coming in from the likes of Xerxes. Can they stop the fight, though? No Man's already burning the ultimate, has been locked up, needs the grass blade to make it out. Will go invisible. Inax now stepping forward. Kabe brings the feathers back, and he locks him up, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Visitachi now to the midst of the team. Humanoid running for his life. Splice may have got the Baron, but they will lose the following fight. Humanoid taken out, and Unicorns of Love move up to 6K difference.
A brilliant effort, though, from Xerxes to fly into the pit with Paranoia and seal that one away. Can Unicorns get anything? I mean, Splice have just bought themselves so much time now with the Baron to deny the siege from Unicorns of Love. Stalling out in the mid-game. This, honestly, if you told me it was Splice, blue side, Unicorns, red side, I would believe you, Dracos, because this actually feels like a picture-perfect reversal from the rest of the series.
You'd believe that there was a Renekton top and a Heimerdinger bot?
Just kidding.
Okay, there you go. You took the champions out, you just put the gold in and the game state, and it would look really, really convincing. And this moment right here is fantastic from Xerxes, because they take this Baron after he gets ults in like that, they just lose everything.
Yeah, and even though Unicorns peel off the Baron, they still have the Heimerdinger towers to keep it in range. Brilliant job going in there. Early smite from a Nanosic as well. A misplay from him, but a better reaction from Xerxes. Then Unicorns are able to chase down for a couple of extra kills, but that is as we expect in a game like this where they do have such a lead. Important that, he gets the stun off onto Kabe, so Kabe can't kite back with his auto attacks, and then he can dive under the tower for a little bit extra. Unicorn still in control of this game, but definitely going to be slowed down for quite some time.
Yeah, Double Ocean definitely not ideal either. They have a minute and 41 seconds and counting left on the Baron power play. They're currently at plus 38 gold. It's going to tick a lot. So
Still better than Game 3.
Now 100. Now, okay, all right. I'm not going to talk about the Baron power play anymore. But clearly not a great Baron power play on the side of Splice. Sorry.
Actually, look at the items from Kabe. We were talking about the shutdowns he got earlier in the game. He has now 3 items. This guy is strong.
Well, and you kind of saw it in the pinch there. If that was a situation where he's approached from multiple sides, definitely would have looked different. But when he gets to pull the feathers through multiple members of the enemy team, Zaya does so much damage.
Yeah, I actually think this is a game where he'd be well off to invest in a QSS, even with his ultimate, just because you have the threat of Morgana binding, which you can react to, but it's really hard to react to that Renekton stun. And with so many CC tools coming your way, if you have the QSS, you can hold onto your ultimate for more opportune time. Would like to see him go down that line. Might not have the chance here.
And interesting, I was double checking, making sure he did not start the game with the stopwatch, and it looks like he didn't. So could look to buy that as well. Help out against the Karthus and the Kiana. The fights to come, mitigating some of those big burst spells. Visitachi is barely tanky enough to step forward, but it does mean that the push will be slowed for now.
And especially on these sieges, watch out for the magic resist shred on the Wall of Pain, because you can drop that and it's the size of the entire lane, and then the poke comes through and it becomes very, very difficult to deal with. Now I really like the move from UOL to walk so far forward and poke Xerxes as he's trying to walk towards this mid lane. It basically secures them, this inner tower. Splice going to be regulated to their own base for the time being. And this is just what you sort of have to do. You know, hold on to those inners as long as possible, but ultimately recall and defend those inhibitors, because you can just stall out for the next Baron. Maybe you have a better chance at a fight with this Zaya that is going to be very, very powerful, finishing off, you know, her 4th item as that Baron comes a little bit closer into spawning. You do have some options.
Yeah, and of course, there's always the threat of the Visitachi-Xerxes duo collapsing on a side lane. It is a bit difficult, given the kind of overall lack of damage, given how far behind that they are, but is something that can work for the team. Humanoid may look very far behind, and he is relative to his lane opposition, but has pretty good tools to kick fights off. So it's all eyes on Kabe to be the damage source. The team around him, enough resources to support him, but probably not enough to be carries themselves.
The gold differences across the board are really interesting, because, you know, you expect Unicorn smashing in a whole lot of positions, jungle especially, just a monstrous lead, almost 5,000 for Nanasik. Mid lane too, of course, very much in favor of Unicorns. But as we said previously, Kabe doing very well to keep up himself. He actually has more gold than anyone else in this game. He has more than a Nanasik or No Man's. That's the benefit of the shutdowns. That's the benefit of Splyce donating him so many resources in this mid-game period. He's just trying to scoop up about everything he can, and that's why his CS looks so bloated compared to the rest of the game.
And outside of another Miracle Nocturne steal, though, I'm very concerned as to how Kabe actually fights around a Baron.
Right.
Because there's so much room to control space. You talk about the Wall of Pain. He can't walk through that. If he gets slowed down like that, he's going to be forced to ult immediately. You can't stand near a wall or No Man's just ults you. You can't stand near a Renekton or he kills you. and the Heimerdinger can just set up a big tower, and then there's really no way for the Xayah to walk in. She's not tanky enough.
It's really strange because Kabe has a lot of tools to deal with the Kiana and the Renekton melee champions with his ultimate, the CC from his feathers as well. He has great kite back tools, but he's going to get outranged by the Karthus and the Heimerdinger every single time. So the start of these fights might actually look good for Splyce, I think, if he's able to stay alive and use his spells correctly. But I'm always going to be hesitant to say that even after the fight looks good right off the bat, that Splyce would be able to potentially close out on a fight because they can't actually cut the distance onto those priority ranged members.
Just what a world we live in. We got Sheepy going toe-to-toe with two former teammates. We got Norse going face-to-face with that brush. Very risky proposition. Xerxes and Vizicachi, I mean, it's an interesting spot to be. I think one of the first times in history where you've had to go through your former coach on your new team at Worlds to win the championship or to get into group.
Here we go!
Here's a big pick on a Humanoid, just instantly taken down. The Karthus is still alive. They're going to try to get one kill back. Karthus ulti now coming out, trying to zone the rest of the team away. Huge damage coming in. No Man's now on the hunt. He has the Black Shield. Kabe immediately going to be forced to ult. The feathers come back. Maybe not enough. Pulling through as Vizicachi's forced to ult in as well. This should allow UOL to walk straight towards the pit.
Oh, I thought Kabe had more room right there to fight back with the Shen ult, dropping a lot of autos to kite on back. Now this means Unicorns of Love, they got that pick with No Man's 5v4 around the pit. They can kite this permanently.
Chachi just used all his major cooldowns. Dashed in. Brief window of opportunity to punish here. Vizicachi still stepping forward, but Ananasik and Inox can just force this one down. Xerxes coming in. He has no ult, but he does have the flash, and he does have the smite. No Man's, they need to step forward. They need to stop Xerxes from getting to the pit. Why? They don't need to take this 50-50. He's going to dash over the wall. He's going to try to make sure that it's not a 50-50. Instead, they're focusing on it. No Man's goes to the backside. He's trying to find two. Can he get one more?
He got it!
I can't believe it! Splyce, when it matters most, every single time it is Xerxes. But Unicorns of Love will continue to monster the fights. No Man's is still alive. But that's it. Once again,
they're TPing bot lane. They can get the inhibitor. Even though they lost the Baron, they can siege.
Stepping forward, Humanoid can try to walk into this one, but I don't think it's a winning proposition. Edward now on the way as well. No Man's pushing up. I can't believe two.
Can they push to the end? They have so many minions. Dracos, they can keep on going. They face the wave there just is not there.
Supreme Display of Town is almost off cooldown. The Kiana can look to ult. He gets locked up mid-ult. That's not what they needed whatsoever. Humanoid goes into the backside. He's trying to buy time. Aftershock makes him a little bit tankier, but Norse Garen cannot tap in. He just continues every form of Zhonya's he has. He flashes out to safety. He locks them up. Maybe they can hold it here. Humanoid is still alive. No Man's has overstayed his welcome. No Man's goes down. They don't get the shutdown. Splyce once again making the impossible possible. A second Baron steal and a hold in the base.
Xerxes just respawned. He has the paranoid, but not the vision to chase down for more. What a crucial hold from Splyce. They were the ones that picked up the Baron at the cost of their inhibitor. Still, game in favor of the Unicorns of Love, but you can start to see the cracks.
Let me take a look back at this play.
And I think it's an early smite again. We have to watch how this occurs because Boss flashes over, instant reaction with the spell shield. Beautiful play from Xerxes. Then watch him flash in the pit. It is an early smite once again from Ananasik. There's the blue, there's the red. Xerxes steals Baron Nashor.
It's split communication. You can see it there. Boss goes over, Ananasik thinks the call is kill the jungler before we even try the smite. If he had just tried to burst down the Baron in the window where Nocturne was locked out of the pit, maybe they could have got it. But when this is such a high-pressure moment. If they secure that Baron, they know the game is essentially theirs.
And now there's an Infernal Drake spawning. I think Splyce feel like they can go for this team fight. Kabe level 16 now. 4 items, 100% crit chance.
No flash.
If ever there was a moment, this has to be it.
Vizicachi's going on a walkabout. Why is he here? Vizicachi flashing out to safety. The Kiana's going to run him down. Doesn't even need to use any summoners of her own.
How much time can he buy, though? Because right now, Splyce are pushing mid. They do have Baron buff. Remember, he falls down, so at most, it's 1 tower here. Ultimate blown by Inax. They're trying to go in.
Big ult comes in from the Karthus.
Ooh.
Lots of damage. Kabe forced to ult out. Splyce are going to be able to retreat. There's a massive wave stacking on the bottom side. There are no TPs left for the Unicorns of Love.
Unicorns want to push down mid lane. With the numbers advantage, they say, forget the Infernal Drake. Maybe you can make something happen here. Or just reset and push for that. They're splitting up on the map at the moment. And they know there's not a whole lot of wave clear for Splice. It really is Kobbe who has to step up to the wave to hit those minions. So they can just walk straight down this middle lane with the numbers advantage and take this tower.
Kiana ult's up and available as well. Difficult to use in the enemy base to be certain, but it means they can't stand next to that inhibitor. The Wall of Pain, once again, making so much space. Kobbe cannot step forward when the Unicorns of Love have set up this line of scrimmage.
It's probably the strongest thing about this composition for Unicorns, the zone control and the zoning they can use, not just with, you know, the towers from Heimerdinger, but the wall from Karthus. No Man's just existing near the backline.
Here comes No
They
Man's.
can't come close.
Existing again.
Existing with
Won't find the
26k damage this entire game.
I don't think Kiana gets through again, Ender.
He's done more damage than Xerxes, Humanoid, and Kobbe combined.
I don't think Kiana gets through again, Ender.
You can't let Kiana through. And this takes me back to game one when Unicorns banned it on blue side. I thought they were crazy. They realized the error in their ways, and it is looking ridiculous.
And I think there are changes that Splice can make, right? They waited till second phase to try to pick their mid laner. They could have opted to pick the Akali earlier on. They could have opted to pick something more comfortable for Humanoid. He was forced on this Lissandra with 2 bans targeted at the mid lane.
It also just felt like they got outplayed in the early game. In a series dominated by early jungle
Nax.
pathing, Ananasik had the advantage.
This is what they're waiting for. He flashes over the wall. Can't try to buy a bit of time. Lays down the big turret. Edward now coming in. Now he goes golden again. That's going to be the double. He wants to make his way out to safety. Are they actually going to be able to kill him? Ananasik is dealing so much damage in the pits. The shutdown onto the Heimer will go through. Double Zanya is not enough. The stopwatch as well as the hourglass itself.
Splice not going to be able to get anything off the back of that. Just go back and start clearing away the super minions. The longer they hold on, though, the super minions are just guaranteed gold income as they smash through the minion waves on the side of Splice. It means Unicorns continually get denied, and Splice continue to have more and more opportunities to pick up gold and experience. Kobbe farming his jungle consistently. Now he finally has that Quicksilver Sash. Team fighting has gotten easier. Still not...
You have to credit Splice for adaptation in the late game. They're no longer looking for the big fights. They're looking for these little picks to keep themselves in longer and longer to give Kobbe more and more time to scale up. And this could have gone terribly if anyone else was here.
Right, but they saw No Man's in the top lane, clearing away the minion wave, the strongest member, it seems, on the side of the Unicorns. And, of course, the Zonias plus the stopwatch that he didn't use earlier, double interaction, going to be burnt. And that's a really powerful tool when you consider that all Splice want to be doing in these fights is diving your back line. That's an extra 2.5 seconds he will not be able to stall them for in the next 5v5.
Checking in on the summoner spells as well. Vizicachi, of course, with no ult available, has his TP. Kobbe has his. Flashes for Norskaren, Kobbe. Now we're going to see the fight break out. No Man just gets right back out. The Karthus all coming in is going to do a lot of damage. Multiple members locked up. Humanoid chunked on the side. I don't think anyone's making it out of this one. Xerxes manages to get taken down. Only a single kill onto the side of Splice. Unicorns of Love were looking for more there, but they will not find it. Splice barely making it out.
Yeah, you can see in that corridor Unicorns chose to fight in. Really good position from them because Kobbe actually can't fight back. He is zoned because his front line goes down quickly and won't be able to fight. Now, Xerxes down for 30 seconds. No chance of a steal. You'd have to imagine here. Third time must be the charm for the Unicorns of Love. Splice could look for a team fight, but without the Featherstorm, it's got to be an uphill battle.
The Baron is going to fall. 36 minutes into the game, a 5K lead held onto by Unicorns of Love. 4 Drakes in their favor. Humanoid now in trouble. They're not going to overcommit for the play, however. Will back off. They secured the Baron. They've gotten everything they wanted. The pick more than enough to help them take that one, and now it's the base in the sights of Unicorns of Love.
Splice are going to have to pull the trigger. The siege from the Unicorns is deadly with Baron. The wave clear will not be there from Splice, and the poke certainly will be from Unicorns. Setting up now to push up towards the top side of the map. That bot lane inhibitor has respawned, but mid lane still going to be in favor of the Unicorns of Love. Featherstorm still down from Kobbe. That means team fighting almost impossible for this squad. If Unicorns can find the fight now, can find the siege when Splice can't fight back, that'll be their opening.
Small window. Vizicachi going to take a ton of poke damage. Guardian there to mitigate at least some of that. The Skittles from Ananasik zoning the rest of the team off the tower. A Humanoid still ready on the flank. Will not take the claw in.
Just drop the wall and step up to hit the tower. That has to be the play here. But Inax not feeling confident enough to drop any autos himself, waiting for the poke. Gonna be another 20 more seconds before that next wave leeches this top lane. Spells are back up for Splice. This may be where they decide to draw the line here. Flashes across the board. It will be Norskaren to lead the charge in if they can find a flank.
They need to find a window now. He's going away. All the engageables are being burned onto No Man's. No Man's will get taken down. He gets a decent ult off, but that's the shutdown going through. Unicorns of Love instead now locking up Vizicachi, setting their sights on that top lane inhibitor. Anonysik has the ult up and available. The flash taunt, it's perfect from Vizicachi, but Anonysik is still alive for now. The whole team stepping forward. Anonysik trying to catch himself in the middle of the fight. Doubles on is his humanoid. May find himself in trouble. That's the Karth Assault. Who's going to drop down? So he doesn't have enough. So many members dropping in the face of the Requiem. And the Requiem for Unicorns of Love might just sound like Silver Scrapes. He closes one out. Big stun. The binding goes in. Norscaron. He blocks once again. Who can't Norscaron save in these clutch moments?
This is where it gets so hard for Kobbe. He wants to fight. He is stronger than Inax, but he simply does not have the range with errant skill shots being thrown his way constantly. It is a 3-for-3 at the end of the day. But the inhibitors are all still alive from Splyce. We see this fight one more time. It's after they got the initial pick. Brilliant engage from Vizicachi to make Anonysik have absolutely nowhere to go. And then keep your eyes on Kobbe. He has to kite back in the situation, but now he's zoned. He has no one in front of him, so he can't step into this fight. If he does have that front line, it becomes a very different situation. As just stepping forward, he has to play around the cooldowns. Once the W goes down from Inax, that's when he can be much more aggressive. Crucial block there from Norscaron to deny the Black Shield on towards Splyce's AD carry. But ultimately, just a dead even team fight.
A dead even team fight when they started the team fight by instantly killing the Kiana. That's a terrifying prospect. Vizicachi feeling very confident to step forward like that. It looks like the Elder Dragon, in the eyes of the Unicorns of Love, their lead isn't nearly as relevant as it once was. We're 40 minutes into the game just about. Kobbe has every item he's going to get.
Anonysik full build, No Man's full build as well. Everyone is stocked up and ready to fight. The Infernal Drake's certainly going to be huge.
Chachi potentially in trouble. They can't afford to burn too many cooldowns on the Shen before the fight kicks off, but they can slowly but surely chip him down. The ulti coming through. It's going to lock up Norscaron as well. No Man's going to grab that one. Splyce going to have to back off.
UOL continue to pick off Vizicachi before these crucial fights. It's so important for them. Now there's effectively no fight left to be had for Splyce. 50-second death timers as well. A 4-stacked elemental Elder Dragon now for the Unicorns. And they don't need Baron buff because all 3 inhibitors are exposed. They can just run straight into that base and sweep across and take all 3.
Splyce, the fact that they've survived this long already feels like a miracle. 2 Baron steals, a fantastic base hold. Norscaron with some clutch blocks left and right. But I don't think it's going to be enough against this final push, Ender. This could be it. This should be the moment where Splyce lose this game. 1 inhibitor to fall, a second going to match it, a third sure to follow. 14 seconds on Vizicachi. Yomu's used, the audacity used just to get closer to the inhibitor. Anonysik, a constant threat. They cannot dive in. The Heimer and the Karthus will punish. That's 3 inhibitors down. Baron in 1 minute and 44 seconds. If UOL really want to take the slow route, they really want to close out cleanly, they can wait for that objective.
Do they want to force a fight? Vizicachi has spawned with Stand United. Maybe they thought if we can fight before they reset, before they can finish off a couple more items, we can make something happen, but that's not going to be the case. Elder Dragon is going to bridge the gap for Unicorns all the way up until our 4th Baron of the game spawns, Dracos.
40 minutes. The Splyce time meme is dying with this series for the record.
It's Unicorns time.
And look, there's a Titanic Hydra for Shen. You've got a very fed Xayah. Lissandra is pretty solid at clearing waves at this point. A lot of items. So you maybe can hold out for a while against double super minion spawns. And you're going to get a lot of money for doing so. But as mentioned, the money is going to mean less and less at this point. The Karthus scaling continues, however, to be an absolute nightmare to deal with. Dark Harvest, of course, only going to make that even worse.
I wonder how Splyce attacked this fight. I feel like you try to go front to back, deal with Boss and No Man's first.
Manoid going in. Looks like they tried to kite on No Man, but it's a massive ult. He manages to hit 2 members. The rest of the team now on the retreat. No Man's still alive. And that's it. That should be it.
Look at the burn!
Oh, health bars.
Oh,
gone. Trying to snipe him. Redemption.
He's going to burn! Edward!
Baby burn. And just like that, it's the Requiem. It's the Redemption. It's everything you could want as a Unicorns of Love fan, because here, in the moment where it matters most, they have turned the game. They will look to break the base. 1 tower left standing in front of them. Slowly but surely moving in. Kobbe, there's just too many members in front of him. He does not have the damage. He does not have what it takes. So when push comes to shove, Unicorns of Love take us to Game 5. Get ready, because it's time for Silver Scrapes.
Unicorns came out strong in this one. Draco's fiery early game start from a Nanasik, dominating inside of that jungle matchup. And then No Man's, my God, on that Kiana was that nasty.
That was an incredible game of League of Legends. Unicorns of Love, we were like, how does this comp win the game? And we just honestly did not expect them to pull that far ahead. But it becomes very clear when you have a Karthus and a Heimerdinger on the same team that, well, you win because no one can walk into you. And if they can't walk into you when you're doing a Baron, though Splice did make a valiant effort to do so, you're eventually going to lose. It does admittedly take 2 steals from Xerxes, a Miracle base heal hold from Humanoid, a flash body block on a Morgana binding. But Unicorns of Love got there in the end.
If we've learned anything from this series is that in this best of 5, you can't just take the early game for granted. You can't say 10K gold lead, that's a win anymore. Instead, there's so much power. We've seen both teams try to fight back in the mid game. This is just absolutely just a crazy series.
That's lesson 1. Lesson 2 is ban Kiana. For more on that game, let's hear from the analysts.
Good advice.
It is a crazy series, and it's
the power of pink! The power of pink!
I wanted to see. 5 hours ago, I stared that camera down the lens and said, I want 4 more games. I got my wish. Now, before we head into the 5th and final game for either Unicorns of Love or Splice, let's dial in on what happened this game, starting with the team compositions. And actually, Vedius, you were talking about some things you wanted to see from UOL. They came true.
Yeah, so one of the big things we really wanted to see was enabling the solo laners. And what better way to do that than getting a Kiana and Renekton? But crucially, notice the bans. All of them were directed towards the top laner, Vizicachi. They did not allow him to have the same comfort and power that he normally has, enabling Boss in the top lane, and with the Kiana in mid as well, and Akali and LeBlanc being blind pick. All of these bans disabled the solo laners.
And a couple of things. Kiana specifically, as you mentioned, has now been first picked, won a game for both of these teams. Splice have already done it in the series now. UOL add their name to the list. But this is the second time that Heimerdinger has been up. Remember back to the first game, it was super late game scaling. KL composition eventually came online after a huge lead from Splice. And we haven't seen it all series. We saw it in the group stage, and then they go back with the Morgana in the bottom side. They look safe, and the rest of the map just explodes.
But what's so crucial about this is it ties in with what we wanted to see. Better enabling of the solo laners with some late game insurance, and that's where the Karthus comes in. A Nanasik on this champion looked fantastic, and the damage he dealt in the late game was ridiculous.
Please tell me we have some replays of some of the moments throughout this game, maybe some of the early game kills.
Yes, we do.
Happen to come on the side of UOL, landing in No Man's hands.
Because one of the big things was how they played through their 2 solo laners and how they utilized the Karthus in the early game. They just abandoned bot. They left it to play by itself, and this meant that Kobe and Norskaren couldn't snowball through this lane, whereas on the top side of the map, things were only going in the favor of UOL.
Yeah, and the worst thing you could possibly do in the early game is accelerate a Nanasik on the Karthus. He's here in all of these plays. You have to shout it out. That was a perfectly timed grenade.
Yes.
On the exit of Stasis there, and this was just a complete flip on what we've seen in every single other game this series.
And before the previous game started, we said we want to see these solo laners pop off. We want to see Unicorns of Love activating their carries, and No Man's was absolutely activated. He had a fantastic game.
Yeah, he certainly did, picking up the Kiana, and the big thing that was that it was also flexed. The casters, we were sitting behind the scenes, fans at home, looking at that lock-in and being like, okay, this is very likely going to the jungle position, but then they switched that one up. Huge performance from the man in the mid lane.
A supreme display of talent is what we saw today from Nomad. The guy had a great rise game in Game 4, and that was kind of the indication. I said, okay, maybe if you just put a few more resources into him, maybe he can really pop off. And I'm so happy that we got to see this pop-off game from him, because while he often plays the scaling, the safe, the wait to late game mid laners, he was able to showcase what he's able to do, especially on champions like this.
1,000 damage per minute throughout the course of the game. That is phenomenal stuff. Now, we've been praising Unicorns a lot because they won the game.
Yep.
But Ender said it best. If this series has taught us one thing, is that an early game advantage cannot be taken for granted, and that even 10,000 gold leads don't matter. I actually think that might be word for word.
You can't trust a 10k gold lead, apparently.
A man like Xerxes is just going to steal your Barons,
Yes,
Jim.
it would not be a UOL versus Splice 5-game series without mid-game blunders from both sides. How, after a double stolen Baron mid-game, they end up ending that one? Obviously, you have to give credit to them, the mental resilience in such a weird one. There was almost a 200 CS discrepancy for the Xayah. The same can be said from the Karthus, and this was just wild. Like, what is going on?
Xerxes and Splice did not make it easy for UOL to close out that game, and a large part of why they were able to do it was because of the superior drafting that came out from them. But moving into Game 5, Splice are now on the blue side. This is where things become a lot more difficult because Splice have more creative control in the draft. They get to first pick the Kiana this time around.
So, Ejim, this is normally the point where I'm going to ask a question. Can you predict my question?
Yeah, I can. I'm going to say, what side of the map? One in first game?
Yes.
Yeah, that's going to be blue.
Yes.
Second game, that's going to be blue. Third is
So
blue.
what does
and
that
fourth
mean?
is blue.
Who's going to win this game legitimately without memeing on blue side?
Splice, blue side, I think it is a little bit of a meme, but it has so much credit. It's been consistent through multiple teams, multiple days, multiple best of fives. It's coming up clutch.
Yeah, I feel that because of how much control it has in the draft, and the thing that I'm curious about is whether or not UOL actually just stick to their game plan. They actually just ban out the top laners that they did in the first half. Put Vizichachi on something that he's not comfortable on, something that they can really attack him with, and then see if they can get No Man something that he can just carry on. Because if they do, there is a real chance that UOL can make the upset happen, remove Europe's third seed, and make it towards groups.
During the course of the summer split, we saw two versions of Splice. The third best team in Europe throughout the regular season. And then some magical version of Splice appeared that got defeated by Rogue, that almost got taken up by Origin with a substitute jungler. All of the pressure is on Europe's third seed on their home soil in their home studio. Do you believe in Splice under all of that pressure with momentum on Unicorn's side?
I do believe in Splice, and the biggest reason is because of Kobe in the bot lane. I feel like that throughout this series, he has been consistent, reliable, and dominant. And if they just remove the Heimerdinger, they remove the safety, the difference between him and Inax will be enough to take Splice to group stage.
Ejim, very briefly, who will win Game 5 and
As
why?
the emerging region representative, we've got a couple of EU guys here. I reckon a best of 5 is just a series of best of 1s. If you can win 1, you can win 2, and maybe you can win 3 to get the CIS to group stage.
I'm just saying he's color-coded with the logo behind him. My analysts are split. The Unicorns of Love and Splice are going to Game 5. Let's see who advances to the World's group stage right after this.
Ambitious use right there, but they will be able to pick up at least one plate for themselves. That's a taunt!
Forward, Vizichachi trying to buy a bit more time in Spirit's Refuge, but he can't sidestep enough. The Skittles!
Walking in 1v3. Oh no!
It's locked up. Hello? No man's?
Oh!
That's huge! Kabe brings the feathers back and he locks him up, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Vizichachi now into the midst of the team. Humanoid running for his life. Splice may have got the Baron, but they will lose the following fight. Humanoid taken out. He's going to dash over the wall. He's going to try to make sure that it's not a 50-50. Instead, they're focusing on it. No Man's goes to the backside. He's trying to
Can he get it?
Can he get one more? He got it! I can't believe it! Splice, when it matters most, every single time. Flash taunt, it's perfect from Vizichachi, but Anonasek is still alive for now. The whole team stepping forward. Anonasek trying to catch himself in the middle of the fight. Doubles on is his Humanoid. May find himself in trouble. That's the card assault. Who's going to drop down to say he doesn't have enough?
Deal with Boss and No Man's first.
Humanoid going in. Looks like they tried to kite on No Man, but it's a massive ult. He manages to hit 2 members. The rest of the team now on the retreat. No Man's still alive. Unicorns of Love take us to Game 5. Get ready, because it's time for Silver Scrapes. Welcome back. It's time. A moment many of you may have thought we would never get to, but this is Game 5. This is a deciding moment between the LCL's Unicorns of Love and the LEC's Splice. And don't forget it, European fans, it is not the LEC, it is the LCL. There will be no Europe's fourth seed lull after this one. There will be nothing but embarrassment for the LEC if Unicorns of Love can come out on top. A momentous matchup, and Ender, this is the pick band that will decide it all.
It absolutely is. Now coming in, Splice have chosen to return to the blue side, and what this means for the Unicorns of Love is actually they're going back to the original strategy. I think we might see the Pantheon left open, because otherwise they would have to ban Pantheon. They'd have to ban Kiana. Do they ban Desire? There's Pantheon. So many power picks. Splice can't play it. Splice can't play the Pantheon, Dracos.
The Kiana's still up. Do they ban the Kiana?
It's either that or the Kennen.
And if you're wondering why we're so intense in drafts, most of the games have been pretty readable from the draft phase, pretty predictable in how they would play out. And if Unicorns of Love come out of this with an advantage, they come out with another super favorite topside matchup, things may just go in their favor.
Unicorns, they thought they were going to trade the Kiana for Pantheon. They absolutely had to think that was going to be the play. They have limited Visit Chachi's champion pool one more time. That worked wonders, forced them onto the Shen, and helped them get the win in Game 4. But Kiana also helped them get that win, and now that could very easily go into the hands of Xerxes, and he could take that for another win.
And the Lee Sin, the hover over here. Some early game power, hopefully to match that of Kiana if this does go into the hands of Xerxes. But instead, it will be the Renekton. Boss pulled so far ahead in the previous matchup, was able to contribute so much more than the Shen in the mid to late game.
And this is where we wonder, can Visit Chachi steer away from the Shen, show the Nico such a strong counterpick into that Renekton, or perhaps the Rumble I mentioned in the last series. If you're going to have a Kiana in the jungle, you know, could still flex around, but you definitely need to have some magic damage to bolster around that. I'd love to see him visit either of those two champions, drafted early, otherwise face more bans being thrown his way.
The Syndra's still up.
It is.
Syndra, the other champion, has been taken away so many times because it is a flex. It is Inax or Nomans who can take that champion. It disrupts so much of the draft. But with the Xayah now locked in, a lot of that power is gone.
I just wonder if Kabi can play the mages in the bottom lane. You know, we did see him play mages in the playoffs in the spring split, but never the Syndra. Syndra plus Thresh, a very strong bottom lane. Syndra Nautilus could do similar things.
Here we go. On command, there it is. When push comes to shove, there is nothing left.
Now, the real question, though, is can they flex it? Can this go into the bottom lane, or is this a humanoid exclusive pick?
I guarantee you they did not want to pick it to groups. They did not think that they would be pushed this far. But now it goes. Everyone has been practicing this Syndra in solo queue. But once again, the Morgana looks like it can go over to the hands of Unicorns of Love. The Black Shield has disrupted so much.
Black Shield to try and answer a potential Syndra in the bottom lane. I think it obviously does well against the Nautilus, can absorb the initial hook and make it so he can't lock down the potential Xayah, but also against Syndra. One of the reasons why she's so good into something like this Xayah is just one scat of the week can instantly force Xayah to pop her Featherstorm. Now you can hold on to that if you have Morgana alongside it. Still remains to be seen where that pick does go, but now the Unicorns can decide to limit the top lane pool if they want. Now, in the last game, that wasn't actually the strategy for them. They went for double mid lane bans, LeBlanc plus a Kali, two of the blind pick options that Humanoid has enjoyed throughout the play-in so far, and this to me says that they think this could be going to the bottom lane. They still want to remove any potential blind pick options for Humanoid.
They're banning the Akali themselves on the side of Splice. A bit surprised to see it. We'll see what the final option is. Here's from Unicorns of Love, the last ban that they're going to get.
The other thing is Ananasik needs a jungler. Now, of course, he got a pretty free early game on that Karthus against the Nocturne. I don't think it would be the same against a Kiana. Kiana, a lot more damage, the gap closed to try and fight you in the early game with strong lanes around it.
They're going to push Visit Chachi even deeper into his pool. They don't even want to see the Shen.
It's got to be the Rumble. It has to be the Rumble here. I think Rumble plus Nautilus, Rumble plus Kiana, very strong synergy. I would love to see.
But also a bit of a call out there. Obviously, Wind Wall can be very disruptive to a lot of what these champions want to get done.
Cinder especially, with that unleashed power, block all of those orbs coming their way. Now, Unicorns probably looking for a jungle pick for Ananasik. Went for the Renekton earlier. Renekton plus Black Shield. Or sorry, Skarner plus Black Shield. Could always be strong, but it's going to be a return to the Karthus for him. Again, I don't think this is as free of a pick against a potential Kiana jungle or whatever Xerxes chooses to take in this game. So we have to watch how Xerxes can work with his lanes. But always Karthus is going to be the fastest clearing jungler in the game. You have to do something against him or he will outlevel you and outdamage you and outscale you and turn into that late game monster that we saw Ananasik be in game 4.
Final picks coming through. Syndra looks like it will be committed to the mid lane. Kiana as well to the jungle. The final pick will go into the hands of Visit Chachi.
This is such a telling moment here for Chachi. You know he loves to go for some pocket picks. The Cho'Gath that lost game 1 will return for him in the top lane. It's a frontline champion that can try to absorb damage, can try to buy space for Kabe, but I can't help but feel like there were better options for them in this game. I still stand by the fact that Rumble would be an excellent answer for him. But there is magic damage to be had in both mid lane and bottom lane with that Kai'Sa.
The Orianna. Once again, the double magic damage threat for this team. No longer coming from the bot lane. No man's on the Orianna. Syndra Ori, not a matchup I thought we'd see in the game 5, but a classic to be certain.
Such a strange comp. Unicorns of Love do not have a lot of team fight engage. It pretty much relies on landing bindings or using the Wall of Pain or a rogue Shockwave to find multiple members, while Splice have so many more active tools to attack the Unicorns of Love. Strong front line, strong backline DPS as well. I think as far as well-rounded team compositions go, Splyce definitely load into this game with an advantage, but I feel like certain elements of the Unicorns of Love, you feel like the time is ticking against Splyce, where there's a Karthus in a jungle that's going to outscale and do so much damage. It's going to be really hard for them to pin down Inax's Xayah in these games as well. Splyce don't have the same dive tools that they had in Game 4. So if they come up with a lead, I think they have a lot of good options. If they don't come out of the early game with an advantage, it's going to be much more difficult for them to press their will on UOL.
Early game, inevitably the story for both of these teams. And it is a brief pause, a quiet moment before we get into game. But it is Game 5. It is Silver Scrapes. It is the final moments for one of these teams.
It won't be quiet for long, Dracos. I've heard the crowd all day chanting for Splyce, cheering on the Unicorns of Love. When it comes down to the final moments, Game 5, when one team will go home, the other moves on to groups. You will hear them.
Whether you are a UOL fan or a Splyce fan, your team needs you now. Berlin, let me hear you!
No, pues sí, guys.
And there is passion and there is pressure. In the LEC studio tonight, host of the World's Play-ins. For an LEC team may be eliminated here and an LCL team may advance. We'll find the victory in Game 5. There's no question on our minds, but inevitably our sights are set back to the jungle. The first game, Anonasek got the better of Xerxes, was Game 4, and it made all the difference. Can he do the same in Game 5?
Already seeing some moves coming out of him in the early levels. We did see the invade the split map. I think he's going to try the same thing here. With the Renekton up against the Cho'Gath, you expect Cho'Gath can get the push on early, but the level 1 fight certainly goes in favor of Karthus. That's what we're going to see. The late walk-in around the 30-second mark to steal away the enemy blue buff. This time, Splyce don't have any vision to see what is actually happening. Very likely Unicorns drop a ward of their own on their own blue buff to make sure there can't be a response.
Chachi walking around the corner.
He now knows.
Level stun. No, not going to go for anything else. Just a bit of poke before the lane phase starts. They can split the map. They can isolate this Cho'Gath on the top side. But we just have to keep our eyes on this Qiyana. This pick has looked so incredibly powerful across all of plans since release, really. And now Xerxes just running into the enemy jungle, ready to continue his clear. The red buff will be healthy.
So you will be seeing this entire time. Now, Unicorn's bot lane, even though you have the range of Morgana, you have, in theory, the stronger pushing bottom lane, will allow the wave to crash into them because they know Anonasek is topside. They can then walk into their own jungle and try to delay, but that's why we have Norscare walking up himself to make sure that Xerxes is free to clear this. He has the smite.
Trying to at least mitigate some of the early game impact.
But he can't get anything else. See, Xerxes lost his entire topside jungle, was only able to respond with the blue. This is what we talk about, the weakness of Qiyana in those early levels until she can get that first reset off her under her belt, and then she does a whole lot more damage when it comes to looking for these early ganks, when it comes to looking for 2v2s around mid lane, because I think that's where Splyce have so much power, especially around that level 6 mark. No man's rocking the TP, not a combat summoner spell, so it certainly goes your way.
Rocking the TP as well as the phase rush. Against Humanoid's Electrocute. You can tell the goals for both of them. One wants to scale, one wants to be safe in this mid lane, the other wants to kill. Boss continuing to threaten here in Vizichachi. Quick proc of the Conqueror. Scout of the Week not quite connecting the way he wants it to. Will still force the flash out from No Man's, respecting the all-in potential of the Qiyana. Boss. Very close lane, but Boss just continues to press in.
Vizichachi actually going all the way back to base. Started with the Doran's Ring as opposed to the Corrupting Potion, so those all-in fights not going his way. We'll have to use his teleport to get back in the lane. Maybe thinking a dive was
connects. Threads it through the minions. Edward now in trouble. The Black Shield stops any follow-up. Others do come back, but massive trade in the favor of the Splyce bot lane.
So this is actually a huge loss for Chachi up on the top side of the map, because you saw with all of the information we had, it was definitely possible for him to stay underneath that tower, but because he knew the map was split and Xerxes had to play for the bottom side of the map, he was chunked after that play, thought a dive could come in. We saw last game how powerful Karthus is in any kind of dive situation, so he's going to be out of the teleport, whereas Boss can walk back to lane with the Doran's Blade on top of the shield, and with that lead, now Unicorns can maybe look to make plays around the map. You know, find that teleport into the bottom lane if you get a deep ward. That gives you room now to have the numbers advantage and punish Chachi and punish Splice for the weaker early level 1 play, for having the map split against them and losing that spell.
The biggest concern if you're Splice fans is that you've seen what this Kiana can do in the first few levels when Xerxes gets rolling. Of course, it's considered to have a little bit of a weaker clear, but the gank setup is incredible. Xerxes has yet to find a significant advantage outside of the flash on the top side. Meanwhile, Anonasek has been pulling ahead in terms of jungle CS. 3-camp lead, and now Chachi, once again, the one in trouble. Most likely going to have to burn the flash. Your Wall of Pain should come out in a moment. Trying to isolate him. He's trying to buy as much time as he can. He knows he's going down the flash. Is it going to be enough for Visit Chachi? Can he make it out? The Skittles connect to the flash forward. The first blood to the Karthus, and already another engage on the bottom side. Unicorns of Love pulling ahead.
Norscairn, does he want to look for it?
Ooh, flash for flash there. Good trade, support for carry.
At the same time, beautiful gank in the top lane. Now Xerxes looking mid.
Wants to get in, hit confirms it. No man's in trouble. Has to run for the hills. Is he going to be able to sidestep? He walks back in. He dodges. No man's. No. Not enough. Humanoid lands the scatter of the week. They will find a kill back in return.
This entire series has been a war of the junglers. Dracos, and we're seeing it one more time in Anasik with a perfectly timed gank up on the top side. Wave pushing away from Chachi. He was horribly exposed. Xerxes 2 visits into mid lane, 1 to get the flash, 1 to get the kill. Even when he is denied in the early game, Xerxes finds opportunity to make the plays happen. You see all the control wards on the top side of the river near that middle lane. It just tells you No Man's needs attention to try and clear that away and get himself some safety in this lane, because you look at this return to base, No Man's has TP. In theory, you're supposed to have a lead. You're supposed to have a goal, a better reset. Instead, it's a lost chapter, just a fairy charm and some boots. On the other side, as we get one more look at this gank, is Chachi, as we said, lane horribly frozen against him, and he doesn't have a jungler there to help him push it out.
And the most you can really hope for is trade flash for flash in that exchange, and he does manage to do so, forcing Boss to flash after him, waits for the slow on the wall to fall away. But here, this is the gank we were waiting for the Kiana. Just about impossible to dodge that snare when she uses the Audacity as well. And No Man's admittedly fancy feet, but Syndra eventually going to find it.
Yeah, and what these plays ultimately come down to is really good wave management from Humanoid in the mid lane to freeze it on his side and to call for Xerxes to come through, as well as Boss calling, hey, this lane is pushing away from Chachi. He might step up and try to hit these next couple of minions. Nanasik can easily run on in. Now he's ticked over to level 6 as well, so any sort of 2v2 fight where he is not present is going to immediately swing in the favor of Unicorns.
And interesting, too, you can see Kobbe once again getting the better of Inax on the bottom side when the Heimerdinger is not present. No Man's needs to back off as Norscairn is here as well. I think trying to predict on that one pulls him back in, knowing he can win the trade. Phase Rush will be blocked so he can walk away, but now they know the support is missing from the bottom side. Unicorns of Love maybe can get a little bit of pressure back here as Anonasek, for what feels like the first time in the game, shows his face on the bottom side.
Just look at the river. There are 5 Splice control wards all the way across. That's insane. Here, obviously Nanasik with a big lead already in this game, but doesn't have the same level of support from his lanes to be able to put down that vision, and Nanasik also maybe just a little bit scared to walk into river by himself. Kiana a whole lot more mobile, safer on her own, try and put down that vision. Same thing when you consider Norscairn versus Edward. Norscairn, big beefy guy, he can walk in, he can put down the vision. Same cannot be said for that Morgana.
Yeah, and checking it across the map, I mean, Karthus has a significant farm advantage, with the rest of the map actually going very much in the favor of Splice. You can see on the bottom side a 10 CS lead. The top lane that was supposed to be so strong, where Vizichachi was supposed to be forced back onto a weak pick, is actually farming quite comfortably as the Renekton. The passive from Cho'Gath making this lane a lot healthier. However, they do give up the Ocean Drake, a big advantage to the side of UOL as they move later in the game. Can't help them get away from some of these plays, but Xerxes and Norscairn still fishing. And X has to be careful. He can't really stand next to that wall against the likes of a Kiana.
Remember, there's still a TP advantage for Boss on the top side of the map, too. So Splice's duo definitely need to play a little bit safer. Let the lane just come on in towards them. They've been dominating in this 2v2 so far. That's safe to say in terms of CS and pushing up that lane to be able to knock down a tower plate for themselves. So sometime on the defensive, not going to be too much of a cost for them. Sort of looking forward into this game, though, it's a hard one to call in terms of scaling, because you consider there's a lot of threat when it comes to the later stages of the game on both sides. You know, Xayah versus the Kai'Sa both pump out a whole lot of damage. Humanoid, a lot of single target damage on that Syndra. AoE favoring the side of No Man's. Both junglers scaling pretty well when it comes to the amount of damage they can output, but I think that the safety and the reliable damage does side with the Unicorns of Love. When you consider that they have the Black Shield to keep themselves safe, multiple defensive tools as well with the Xayah ultimate, and then the AoE options too are going to be pretty crucial for them.
Oh, that was good. Pulls it back though. Blast Cone's there. Humanoid going to try to take it one out to safety. Instead, steps forward, just ults Anonasik. Knocks it back. Xerxes there as well. Can just ult into the wall. Anonasik now running for his life. Boss is there to back him up. A crazy exchange in the jungle. Ulti now coming out. I don't think anyone's low enough.
Same thing happened last game though. Oh!
Humanoid forced to heal away. Good sidestep. Getting the flash from No Man's as well. That's really ideal for the side of Splice.
This is a major swing for Unicorns because Norskeren left bottom lane, and now Inax is cashing in on these plates on the bottom side of the map, trying to even up the gold. Norskeren may be looking for the wraparound here, but not quite going to be able to find it as Boss goes all in.
To go down and visit Chachi. I don't think this is... Conqueror's now coming out, and Anonasik is on the way up. The knockup is there, going to stop Boss from pushing any further. They can get wave pressure here, but they can't get much else. They're saying now on the bottom side. The Black Shield's going to start to fall away. Inax has ultimate available. Flash as well. Good dodge out there. Can't pull the feathers back into Norskeren, but Norskeren won't overstay his welcome, and it's fights everywhere. Visitachi going for it. He does manage to get him the Skittle. Not going to connect the flash in. Visitachi gets out. Heroic moment for the Splice top lane.
Unreal. One more time, Visitachi pulling off the 1vx plays right there's bot lane.
Going in. Kave needs to get out, but meanwhile, there's a Kiana on the backside. Inax has to be careful. Finds the snare, finds the lockup. Now the lockup is there. He manages to use the stopwatch, buys a bit more. Kave trying to finish it off, but the flash out will take him to safety. Well played. Both sides.
Outplays coming out across the board. Inax, with all the invulnerabilities right there, is able to survive, will eventually be denied all of the minions going in towards that bottom lane tower. So you feel like Splice are going to be the team that wins out when all is said and done here, with Kabi picking up so low money. This game is so incredibly tense because I felt like all our other games were fairly decided in early game, even though the gold lead in a lot of them wasn't much more than about 1,500. Oh,
Kabe.
He's fast enough. But the thing is, in this game, it felt like both junglers have sort of gone blow for blow, and we've seen multiple outplays coming through from these lanes. This is the first game where it does not feel clear-cut inside of the early game, as we see this attempt one more time. Norskeren just walking straight into the binding, into the all-in, and then without the minions. Actually, because Unicorns of Love, they walk forward, the minions pull their aggro away from the tower, so it means that... Oh, actually, those are their minions. That's all right.
Fine. It worked out.
I thought it was next level, but it wasn't. They still got the outplay.
Absolutely did. Just going back to that point you made earlier, I actually want to hold that thought because No Man's looks like he might just walk in face first into a gank. Big damage comes from the center. That's the stun. Cersei goes in, tries to ult, but just sombreros himself, and Anonasik is just left watching.
It doesn't stop. Flashes out right there. Humanoid with the good Cinder mechanics, popping the ultimate first to put so many orbs on the ground to make the Scout of the Week almost unmissable onto a flashless No Man's. He went for the early Merc treads, but it's not enough to keep him alive in this lane. You can see mid lane absolutely blowing up. Humanoid already with the completed Luden's Echo, and just constant pressure in this lane. This is going to be the worry for Unicorns, even though they have the gold lead. Because mid lane has been broken open, Splice should be able to have the first reactions toward any of these side lane plays in the future.
And Xerxes just continues to hover around the bottom side. No ulti available. The Humanoid's on the way down too. Edward and Inax need to get out of there. They're going to give up the Rift Herald for this one. If they die, it'll be a fine trade, but they cannot afford to go down here.
Here we go.
Oh, Norskeren now going to be in trouble. Looks like they're going to grab at least one. That's one kill. Inax now going to get locked out. Edward should be taken down next. The flash out to safety. Don't think it's going to be enough, but he manages to lock down Kave into the tower. Xerxes, though, the hero to tank it for him.
How much are they going to be able to trade for this, though? Because the Nanasik goes ahead and picks up the Rift Herald. They're going to drop that immediately to the top lane to secure first tower. There's no way Splice, with just 2 members down bot side, can out-push.
Oh, it's the
TP
questionable
comes
TP.
in. It's Inax. He has no flash. He has no ult. He's dead.
What are you doing? Caught out. Where's my boy Sam Kobe Hartman Kensler to tell me about that TP?
It sucked.
He'll do. Unfortunate in the game 5 to be certain. The good news is they'll break the top lane tower. Unicorns of Love hold on to a small but notable gold lead. The Splice will match up the Cloud Drakes for scaling. And honestly, just such a close game. Visitachi doing his best to clear this one out. Stunned up, and honestly gets some good damage down. The Cho'Gath very much in trouble. Conqueror coming through. Visitachi is still alive! Visitachi! Trying to
What? Okay, ulti. He has no mana. Ananasik has no mana.
He needs to go into the jungle to get mana.
He can't do it. There's no time.
That Chachi has had a rough series. They've thrown every bandit they could at him in Game 4 and in Game 5, but he has been doing very well this game, and that is just further highlighting the point. He dodged every Skittle. He lived... Oh, Sliver. I can't wait to see that replay.
It's just unreal. The game dead even locked as turret plating does go down. Now, right now, lane assignment a little bit all over the places. Humanoid is actually the one pushing up in topside. He does have the vision to cover himself, but no tower will always mean that he is exposed. This is the replay. Vizichachi trying to hit the eye. Doesn't realize a Nanosix right there, so he takes so much damage right off the bat. Then where's the jukes? He feasts the Herald. Juke one. He's just autoing. And Nanosix has no mana at this point. He's not even juking all the skills. He's juked one, and then Nanosix just realized he can't auto-attack him to death.
Boss tanked 2 more tower shots. He absolutely could have hit that, but No Man's now has to run for the hills. Edward is luckily there to cover him. 11 turret plates to UOL. You see the difference there in the game, but the gold is still dead even. That's the CS discrepancy in the individual lanes. Almost 40 for Kabe in his favor.
So projecting into the next 5 to 10 minutes, it feels like Splice always have the better tools to play on the offense. That means walking into the enemy jungle, getting pushed through mid, primarily because of their strength in the 2v2 and the mid lane matchup, as well as the ability to face check very easily with things like Norscaren's Nautilus. They can always walk into the enemy jungle while feeling relatively confident with themselves. That's why we see them taking this top lane tower virtually uncontested. Boss just trying to really run down and see if he can catch out Humanoid. But Unicorns Love, they're going to be hard-pressed to find pressure, because while I do think, especially in siege scenarios and when they're controlling areas around objectives, they're super powerful with all their poke and 4 ranged threats trying to pump out damage. Splice, moving together as a unit, threatening the 5v5, is always going to be the stronger team able to force their way into enemy territory.
You really just cannot afford to split up against this Splice lineup. A lot of threats that just leap onto you in an instant. With the Chachi
like this.
running down Inax. Needs to make his way out of this one after dodging as much damage as possible. The rest of the team is here. He's forcing the ult out. Kiana on the way in as well. UOL are just going to walk away here. I mean, all that for a Righteous Glory is a pretty good deal. They do give up the Kiana ult too.
That's going to be a big cooldown, but again, without Inax having his ultimate, he must go into the mid lane. You can't side lane on Xayah without that R button. So it'll be him and No Man's contesting over CS. And this is why I think the lane assignment is going really in favor of Splice, because Humanoid, even though it seems a little bit greedy, he's in the side lane. Whereas I think it's much harder for Unicorns to play all 3 lanes at the moment. Splice definitely are, and even if they only play 2 lanes, they're denying a Cho'Gath. And Vizichachi isn't going to be too sad about losing out minions himself. He already has his Righteous Glory. That's about all you need.
Oh, surprise Karthus. More like surprise Kiana. Nanosix now has to run for the hills.
No ulti, though.
doesn't want to commit. Vizichachi. Karthus goes out of range. He can't get anything else. Edward now has to run. They're moving in to try to pull him back, but a clean flash out from Kabe.
This is exactly what I was talking about. It's so much harder to face check with Edward. Now Norscaren, he went too deep.
Whoa, but not enough. Not even enough time to connect there.
He got the kill, then walks into the river by himself. No one around him. Meanwhile, Humanoid still pushing top lane. Inax without ultimate might just die.
Flash this, just gets one shot. Humanoid on a rampage.
Inax. Ultimate mistakes under his tower, but can his team come and reply? Humanoid, not much mana, no ultimate.
This could be a big shutdown. What else can he get done? Nanosix steps in. Double AP threats versus the single of Humanoid. They will take him down. Shut down over to No Man's, but the tower still falls.
In the heat of the moment, these teams are losing track of cooldowns, are losing track of when and where to pressure on top of the map. This just one example as Nanosix jumps straight in on towards Xerxes. Xerxes without the ultimate, though, is unable to get the kill, and Chachi tries his best, but this is the catch on towards Edward. Again, walking forward, not able to preemptively use that black shield to dodge away from Norscaren's damage. And Norscaren, he has his ultimate, so I think he thinks he can chase for the kill, but Kabe very clearly didn't want any part of that. He just lost track that Xerxes, or rather Nanosix, was in the area and was able to make that rotation through the river very, very easily.
And as we get later and later in the game, the stakes of each and every single fight or pick start to matter more and more. You can see a scaling build coming in from the Orianna, building towards that Seraphs, as well as it would appear to be Leandries. Wants to slowly but surely cut through the opposition.
So No Man's winning the 1v1 right now, but I worry for him when Vizichachi pops the Righteous Glory, and if a jungler ever shows up, still TPs on both those players. Infernal Drake spawning in 6 seconds. Who can land the first blow? That's going to be so telling in this fight, because all Unicorns want to do is chunk and poke before it starts.
Aw, stashing over the wall. The Black Shield is there. Xerxes trying to retreat. Multiple members of his team locked up. Kabe can now go in, but he has to wait. Holds on for a brief moment. The disengage is there. Inax can look to fight in the pinch. They can't step forward.
Just back
takes
from
off.
college,
It's Ultimate Officer's a
and
huge
mom
team
has
fight
a new
cooldown, and then the
boyfriend
survivability.
or whatever. So
Here, even trade. Cersei just trying to heal, sneak in for another good smite, but not able to do it.
Wall of Pain, huge there to block this out. Kabi on the backside, maybe they get something done. Edward looks like he will be sacrificed for this one. Big damage comes in, a decent shockwave, but there's really no follow-up there. Kabi now stepping forward. Inax needs to flash out to safety. They have gotten the Drake from the side of UOL, but it doesn't look like they're going to be getting anything else.
Really clever there from Splyce. They realized that they could fight in that tight corridor. There's not a lot of room to maneuver and dodge away from the Scat of the Week from Humanoid. But they do lose the Infernal Horde. Definitely going to go the way of Unicorns of Love in terms of who won that trade overall, especially when you consider this series in the context of all 5 of these games. Every single one of them pushed so late. Multiple problems closing out in the mid game. So you always favor the scaling advantage of an Infernal over that immediate gold value. Just one more time in this play. Vizichachi tries to find Edward. The Black Shield is burnt initially. Norscairn just barely missing. And then they realize all those orbs on the ground. How do you miss the Scat of the Week? It's just not possible. Able to finalize that kill on Edward and burn the flash on Inax. And now the question to be asked is, how do Unicorns of Love spread out across the map? Because we've seen this so many times throughout just this game alone, is when they try to play all 3 lanes, Inax, especially when he doesn't have his cooldowns, is getting punished. Or, you know, No Man's can't really go top lane by himself, because, of course, Splyce could bring a jungler and just run him down with that Righteous Glory. So they have to be very mindful what they're doing and where they're placing their members on this map. And I think the better strategy almost always is going to be to try to group up and put down vision first so you can track the opponent junglers. Then you can go farm freely in side lanes.
And just such a tense game. You will have to be very careful about grouping up in these pinches. It's a similar story for Splyce, however, against the likes of Isaiah. Boss stepping in the midst of the enemy team. Forced to burn his ult for nothing. A bit of a fumble there.
So watching in these fights, you always have to remember about the finishing power of the Karthus. Karthus very likely not going to fall down at the start of fights. He's been playing safely enough to not get caught out by Norscairn or Humanoid. Edward,
Fishing. Binding does connect. Xerxes stepping forward with the Grass Blade. Can use it to close a bit of distance there.
Splyce have all the tools to initiate fights and get that initial pick and try to knock people down. But Unicorns of Love have the ability to turn around their fights with Inax, with No Man's, with the Nanosick. So they must strike true with their first attack for Splyce. Otherwise, Unicorns will always be able to turn things around right in their face. The consistent damage and the damage in an elongated fight is very much in the favor of UOL.
It's a 3v4 in the mid lane. Splyce could try to fish for something here. Xerxes going to lock up Boss. Won't be able to find anything else. Slow siege here in mid. Zaya finally on the way down. Edward will be here as well. Looks like, Orianna just barely able to get that out in time. Maybe can't make his way out of this one. So much damage comes in, though. Kabe and Humanoid are... Xerxes? Good question. Is able now to make it out. They are going to be able to break the tower. Here comes a bit of damage with a heal there to mitigate it. Still so close to finding the kill.
And Nanosick still searching that big Requiem. Of course, he's now level 12, you know, finished off that Morellonomicon.